Good evening, my name is Helen Anthony. I'm the chair of the Committee on Finance. I'm calling to order our regular meeting Tuesday, May 2025 at 5:32 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Helen Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman James Taylor,
Yeah.
Councilor Sue Engelbart. Here. Councilwoman Azia Grace. Here. Councilor Miguel Sanchez.
Here.
You have 5 present, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Ken Shepherd-Me, who is here from the city solicitor's office, and our wonderful clerk. Thank you so much for all the work. With that, I am going to ask for a motion to waive the readings of items number 1 through 5. Motion made by Councilor Ramberbaugh, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. And I able to take some things out of order this evening because we've had requests from various people. So I'm going to start with the Department of Economic Development. Oh, yes, and as I think I'll have you swear in every one of them, so everyone is going to testify. And yeah, everybody stand up, and that, you too, yes, you too. Yeah.
Raise your right hand.
Perfect.
You swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state your names and your titles for the record.
Stephen Grace, Director of Recreation.
Crystal Lumber, Deputy Finance Director and Budget Officer.
Ken Carr, Director of Economic Development.
Elaine Burke, Deputy Director, Economic Development.
Sarah Silveria, Finance Director.
Lawrence Mancini, Chief Financial Officer, City of Providence.
Jose Tupi, Acting Director of Life.
Crystal Melendez, Acting Deputy Director of Parks.
Tom Simon, Chairman of Recreation Advisory Board.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much for coming. We promise we'll try to be as efficient as possible. That's all we can do. Okay, we're welcome, Director Carr and Deputy Director. So nice to meet you this evening. I really appreciate you coming. I think Bristol School Deputy Director is going to start us off with the, I think we need a handout.
There is a handout, yes. Here's the first department. And the budget for this department begins on page 162 in the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're handing this out, I'm going to ask for the motion mark this is number
19.
19. So moved. Motion made by Councilor Graves, seconded by Councilor Ramberbaugh. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. So let's begin.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody. Looking forward to presenting on this budget. I'm joined today by Director Ted Carr, Deputy Director Elaine Burke. And on slide 2, total expenditures in the Department of Office of Economic Development are $1,793,075. This represents a 6.71% increase over the fiscal 2025 budget of $1,680,274. In fiscal year 2025, salaries in this department were budgeted at $743,967. We need to adjust the budget in fiscal 2026 for the following line items. There is a staffing adjustment for fiscal 2025 due to some vacancies in the department when the budget was initially proposed. Historically, if a position is vacant, we budget the lowest step of the lowest grade for that position. And when these 2 staff members were retained, they were hired at a step above step 1. And so this adjustment is to right size their salaries based on the positions they were offered. We'll also be making an adjustment of $16,222 for cost of living increases and $15,208 for step increases for total proposed salaries of $790,037. This department's budget has been broken up into fixed and discretionary costs. The first large discretionary line item is $250,000, and this is summer jobs that are offered to Providence youth. And the next discretionary line item is $1,500 for certified mailings. There is a modest advertising and marketing budget of $4,000. Dues and subscriptions have been budgeted at $15,000 and represent a $15,000 increase over the fiscal 2025 budget, and this is for cell software that the department is utilizing in fiscal 2026. Professional development has been budgeted at $5,000 and is level funded from fiscal year 2025. And there's been a $5,000 allocation for consulting services that the department may utilize throughout the fiscal year. When looking at total supply items, the first discretionary line item in this budget is grant expenditures of $280,000. I will flag that not all of this is, while we put it in the discretionary category because it is considered a grant expenditure, $250,000 of this is the first source allocation and is required by ordinance. Office supplies are budgeted at $1,000 and have been reduced by $2,500 from fiscal year 2025. Their stationary budget is at $1,000 and a portion of that was reallocated from the office supply line item. The rent for their appropriate space at 444 is $45,073. And the copier and lease maintenance for this office is budgeted at $2,700. And that wraps up the budget proposal for the office supply.
Okay, and before we start, or I guess we can start. Looking at the org chart, and are we, please remind me, is licensing under the Office of Economic Development?
Well, that's a new change for us, ma'am. We are very excited to create a one-stop shop for business activity, and licensing will be moving with us to new space at Westminster.
Okay, can you just, if for the record, just talk to us about when this is one-stop shop is opening and how it's being created and who's moving from where and the whole 9 yards.
Okay, sure. So this is an initiative of the mayor that coincides with other departments. The permitting office is currently in the first floor of Westminster. We're moving into the DPW and the new facility off of Allen's Avenue. Licensing will be moving over with us. The transition will happen at some point this summer. The idea behind this is to create one place where anybody looking for economic assistance can come and get everything they need done from the city government in one spot. Well, both departments are very excited about this. We hope to, I think that the permitting office will vacate in June. We need about a month to do a little bit of work there, and then we'll be moving in July if everything stays on track.
And so just so are you going to be in charge of the one-stop shop?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. All right, and I just think I'll hand it over. So are there any vacancies I'm sorry, there are vacancies are there vacancies in your department?
We do not have vacancies at this time. We have 9 employees, including myself.
Okay. All right, and I'm just looking to see who is reporting to whom on this org chart. I am very, very excited to have you here today because I definitely am going to open it up for questions, but I think that all of us are very excited to hear we're making any headway on WBE and MBE.
I am very glad to report we are. When I was here a year ago, it was my first few weeks of work. This is a state licensing requirement. At that time, there were about 700 small businesses in this category that are registered. We have a very good relationship with our state partners, and we're glad to report that that list is approximately 1,100 small businesses now. So we're up significantly. We had a modest goal of trying to increase this by 10%. We went by that. We're very pleased. That's an activity we continue to work on, and that's going very well. We are also pleased to recognize the water supply department is issuing procurement opportunities in excess of 20% to this population of business owners. So we're very pleased that the city procurement services are going well in this regard also.
Yes.
Just to follow up on that, thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Director. What exactly is the city doing to improve the outreach for businesses? Is there like something the city can do to license MBE, WBE directly without having to wait for like them to be licensed through the state or certification? I'm not sure what the proper terminology is, but is there anything that the city can do? And thank you for sharing the numbers, definitely in the right direction. Something that we see constantly in this committee is those percentages of MBE and WBE in contracts that we approve, have 0% So what can the city do, in detail to improve this category?
So a couple of things we're already doing. We are actively in this community if we know of this business. So we're hosting events, we're coming to ward council meetings, we're talking to these companies wherever we can. We used very effectively a small grant program that was issued to small businesses because of the closure of the bridge. Glad to report almost 700 applications, and we were able to fund all of that. It was not designed to fix the problem of the bridge or the business activity that was lost, but it was grants, small in nature, $500 and $2,500. Providence did exceptionally well in this regard. It was because our team is out in the field, so we're doing that. We're working with partners like Skills for Rhode Island and others with a series of events to cater to this community so that we can say that we are here. We recently had an event there by the mayor where the development community came together to, this is an activity that we do here in the city regularly, and many small business owners were there. So we look at opportunities like that to connect with them. I think one of the things we're most proud of is we're very responsive to being out in the field. So if we find out a company is available and something we can do to help them, we do that. We did use one-time ARPA money this year to enter the contract that we're here in the city and our department manage. That's an organization called Tough Leaf. It's a very unique technology-based structure that helps to identify one thing and one thing only, and that is companies in this category for purposes of procurement. So they helped us to do that, and that's been successful in procurement, and it's had us. We are very pleased with the fact that we can now cultivate real information about businesses in the community. So they do data mining, they do outreach, they have a solution where they actually call small businesses. That's been very helpful. We use one-time ARPA money. It is not currently in our budget for next year, but it has been effective and it's been a good expenditure for us. So we've done as much as we can, and that is at the basis of because we are active in the community that we have seen an increase in the register. The first part of your question is there something we can do outside of the registration in the city? Currently, there isn't. It is a state requirement. We'd love to do more. We are very interested in making sure that if there are businesses that can do this, that we're engaging with them and helping them register. I'll give you an example of one, 195 corridor just awarded a contract to an organization, a woman-owned business that develops parcel on the farm. We're working with them actually in the state to register them as a minority woman-owned. Here in the state, so. This is where council. This is good.
And do that one idea, give your department, just for minority owned business have to. Start.
But there is that also wants this, but the Department of Business that is a minority business is a state department.
So they couldn't just to put understanding on this, so they couldn't, if we opened up a certification process, like that wouldn't be valid. Like with our own procurement.
If it's something certainly we could consider, but at the moment, no, it is. The state is a certifying entity in this regard.
Thank you.
It's a great idea.
Yes, Councilor Ingerball.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see you. It's
Nice
been
to
a
see you
minute.
again.
I keep needing to follow up after our lovely walk on Bridge Street, so.
I've got something to report on that.
Oh, excellent, yay. And also really nice to meet you. I just had a few quick questions. One was, for the fees not classified, it says summer jobs. How many summer jobs does this, support and like, what do they do?
So we can give you a synopsis of that. This is a program that we're standing up for this year now. We had more applicants probably last year than we think we're going to have this year. So we're reaching out through organizations, and then each organization works with their own students under an articulated plan with us. We do work with our policy division here at the city government, and we run this through our workforce training things. We do the back end operation of this. We are in the process of executing on this now, and I'm glad to give a report to the membership when we have a better understanding of how many we'll have this year.
Okay. About like what kind of stuff do they do?
It varies. It's based on a work plan of the individual organization. Some
What's
are,
their house organization?
so there's an entity that applies to the program
Okay.
under a work plan for the students. Some are in the school district, that they work in the schools, they do various things, they mentoring, they do other things. It's real applicable skills to help young people go on to whatever adventure they want to have in life. And so it is designed to help other organizations that we fund, and we do monitor what they are doing, but for the most part, I think this is an efficient program that's run pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I'm glad to give a report as soon as we have some real information on this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Glad to.
Love that. No, please. And then for, consulting services, can you talk a little bit about what's included in that? Like what you've
Right.
consulted with before? Cause it's like
So-
5,000 is not that much money, so it's like, but it's not no money, so
Right.
what is that?
I'll give you an example where we ran into this year. I was part of the team to help the city make a very compelling argument to keep Hasbro Corporation in Rhode Island. We had to make a presentation in short order. Didn't really have a mechanism to do that. So we scrambled around and we made a very compelling argument very quickly with our partners in the state to do this. And I sort of said, boy, we should have a little money for that kind of a thing. Right, so if we need to do some presentation services, certain things that don't exist in our department aren't exactly what we need. So we used outside sources that we knew we could count on, like the 195 Commission, had some architectural assistance that we could help with, and but we made this very compelling argument to Hasbro that I thought was one of the best that I've ever seen. I had a similar job in another state before. This was a great presentation, but something like that is something I'd love to have a little money if it's acceptable to you all in our budget to do that type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, in the grant expenditures budget items, what's included in night sound mitigation?
Right, so this is a pilot program that we are doing with ACT. They haven't been in, they can tell you more about it.
Oh, they were here. Yeah.
Okay, so
But I remember hearing about it.
that, okay, so they hired a consultant. What we're looking at is how can we mitigate both inside and outside sound mitigation with the businesses that operate, especially in them. We hired a very bona fide and highly competent consultant as part of a very small grant that we could execute on, and that activity is ongoing. We have selected 2 nighttime
Okay, you did talk
restaurants to
about
do this.
this.
Okay, so yeah, we can give you a synopsis of that too, but that's, looks, that's expandable throughout the city, right? What can we learn from that exercise? How can we make it better? You know, as you know, this is, one of the areas of the economy that thrives in the city. And so I think this is part of it. We're doing some similar work with planning on lighting as well, they'll share with you.
Okay, great. My final question, I think, is what do you mean by cell software? Is that different than like the software? we've seen in- Oh,
Yeah.
This is one of the things I'm working on. So we have an RFP out for its tracking, its location services. So for example, PVD Fest, we have people coming in, we know how big of it is.
Yeah.
Where are they coming from? How much money are they spending when they are here?
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
It's all of that, and the mayor has also requested it. So we did some research as to companies that could provide this. And it ranges in price from $50,000 a year to $8,000 a year. So we do have a couple companies that are right within this ballpark. The RFP is out, it goes until the end of this month, and we hopefully will have our selection by mid-June latest.
That's my question.
Yes.
We heard from both ACT and also Pima about the World Cup. How are you guys part of the preparations for the World Cup, from like an economic development standpoint?
Sure, so we're actively involved. We meet internally bi-weekly, and we meet also with the World Cup organizers. There's two organizations doing the World Cup. Boston is the most closest venue host to the venue in Foxborough. For the city, we're actively involved in potentially hosting one of the teams here for their World Cup experience, and I'll tell you a little bit about what that looks like. That's a 7-week engagement. We are working with Johnson and Wales. They are very amenable to let us use their fields. They have immediately adjacent, very new quad 2-bedroom units. The teams can all stay there. All of the requirements that are required by the organization can be met down there. So we are in the application process. We'll complete that. That will bring in a review team from the World Cup that will come here. This is great for the city. This adds a vibrancy to the downtown, especially in the summer. They practice there, but they are out in our community. And so this is what we're doing. We're working with EMA and fire and everybody else in the city government, police, on any of those aspects that we may need to do in terms of transporting a team and things like that. We will also likely have some capacity of a fan experience here, so people, we're very close to the venue, and so we'll have some activity around, probably big TVs and opportunities to create an environment where the public can watch the match that can't fit in the stadium. So this is an exciting opportunity to think about housing a team here. The teams then go into a lottery. They pick where they want to go. We potentially could be the only venue with the opportunity to house a team on the Eastern Seaboard. They have to be within 3.5 hours of any of their venues. So this is exciting. We think we have like a perfect venue. It's also right on the ocean. We are a great city. We are an international place. We think we'll probably have a good shot at this, but it really will come down to when we are ready, the teams then choose a lottery on where they end up.
And are you guys doing things to try, since Foxborough is so close, to draw tourists and attendees into our city to, well, the things that one does here?
Absolutely, starting with, we are in close coordination with the CBB on hotel space, so we have this tied up very well. We also have to make a couple of hotels available should the team also use it. So the Graduate is the hotel that potentially a team could stay at. Ideally, we'd love them to stay on the campus. That isn't also a acceptable solution, but we have to, as part of the package, make the hotel available. But then there's the accompaniment that goes with all that, friends, family, everything that comes here. We have a really good internal working team right now. Frankly, I think we're working at a level that is different than the state. And I think we can really do a great job for whatever opportunity. So we're in a good place right now to be able to host something real here.
Thank you, Dr.
Yes, of course.
I'm back to the MB.
Of course.
Because we talk about this all the time. In our work contract and supply meetings, and our treasurer has made a good point to vote no on every single thing that has zero and be zero. He's just making a point. And we've been waiting for a report on the WBE.
Spirit is done.
Yes,
Yeah.
and do you know when that will be done?
Yes, there were some delays. We created an advisory group of various members of the communities, some office holders, and they have now completed meeting. We actually have a meeting with them next week to get our most recent status, like how all that went. And the deliverable for the study is this fall. It was originally, before we came in, the study was already happening, and the target date was right now. It was agreed upon months and months ago, probably 6 months ago, to re-examine that date and was it reasonable? And with everybody involved, we did choose the fall for the target.
In terms, thank you so much. It really does help. And I'm just glad. Thank you for, conducting the study, making sure it's done properly and thoroughly. Is there going to be a recommendation coming out of that in terms of, is there some sort of ordinance amendments we can do, or anything council can do?
Absolutely.
To facilitate more and the WPD.
That is the point. We are so excited to get the results of the study for exactly all the reasons. We are ready. We want every tool possible available to us to increase those numbers.
Okay, we are very, very eager to receive that and act upon it, is all I'm going to say. And I'd also like to, just talk to you a little bit about First Source.
Yes,
How do you think, that program is operating?
so we have spent a lot of time to clean up the First Source program. There were long-standing TFAs as an example that were just sort of gone by the wayside. We have a much more organized way of managing that. We have two staff, a director and a compliance officer that works also with council staff on this. And so I would say it's getting significantly better than it was a year ago. We now have a full set of information. Organizations that are not in compliance with the First Source criteria we are meeting with them regularly. We're bringing them into compliance now. So there are, I think, 46 of these currently underway, and we're halfway through that. We are also considering, there is one item that we discovered that could have a trust account in the city government if there is a issue with the TSA or non-compliance or whatever fee would be paid to the trust account. This is under internal review now, so council's office has it. The treasurer husband is taking a look at it also, so this is something we identified in the cleanup process that was available as a tool in the toolbox, but not ever used. So this is what we're trying to figure out is like, where are we on it? Is that a solution? So we'll be glad to report to you when we know something about that.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
But overall, now this trust account is not set up.
It is not currently set up, nor we believe has never been set up. So we're taking a look at this.
Okay. I think I've exhausted my questions. Yes, Councilor Sanford.
Thank you, Chairwoman. My first question is for Crystal. I'm not sure if you said it already, but what is the significant change from FY 25 salaries to the actual? Is that what you're speaking of about different steps?
Oh, yes. So, when we had proposed the budget for fiscal year 2025, both the director and deputy director positions were either vacant or like soon to be filled at that point in time. And so historically, what we do when a position is vacant at the time of budget submission is we budget the first step of the lowest grade. Oftentimes, when we're recruiting employees, that is not a competitive salary, so we may hire them at step 2 or 3 of that grade. And so the adjustment I have for salaries is bringing those salaries into line with where they were actually filled at versus where they were budgeted at.
Just to follow up on that, so where does that money come in our budget when you have to make those changes?
So typically, because the positions were vacant, there was sufficient attrition, so not 100% of all the salaries that were budgeted were filled at that point in time. And so the savings from vacant positions were put into play to help support the salary that was in person.
That makes sense. Thank you. One more question regarding personnel. Director, can you remind me, the gentleman that came to the meeting with you, is he not in your?
So Everett Bianco is a part-time employee that accompanied us. He is our in the field community liaison. So he is the one that is most out meeting with businesses, and he works half-time and he exists in another department's budget, which is housed here in the mayor's portfolio.
So
He's assigned to our department.
so he's in the mayor's budget?
He's
Okay.
part of the mayor's office budget. The salaries of the mayor's staff are not
Right,
included in the ordinance, and so
Right.
that is a part-time position he's hired.
fair enough. Thank you. Two last questions. They're kind of general, but I like to pick your brain, Director, whenever you're in front of us. The first question is in regards to nightlife, economic activity. Can you just share some of your thoughts? I know ACT wants to hire a nightlife coordinator. What is your department doing to kind of support and uplift that work?
This is where my property that comes out. I usually walk around every day, not just for today. So if you have not read this report, it is an excellent report about the nightlife. And so we work very closely with them. There are recommendations in here. There are costs around a director of nightlife, so this is a challenge at the moment for us, but I think this is a very good step in the right direction for the city. You know, the numbers speak for themselves in this report. This is a thriving part of our economy, and everything we can do to do that is very important. Broadly, like every department, we're learning to operate within our means. And so we'll do anything that we can do to support that. We will, all of our staff in economic development is cross-trained, right? So they can all work in other people's portfolio. We can also do that with ACT and in part some of planning and development. So it is important for us to know what others do here so that we can be supportive of them. So the human capital, the capacity of people to do other things, we're into that. And some of this training money that we have also is going to be used to make sure those employees have the right tools in the toolbox, especially the ones that are most forward facing for the customer experience. So a lot of that is transferable to the nighttime stuff.
Can I just ask a?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interrupt and ask just a follow-up question on that. I think there's been. In your experience, let me ask you this, I'm not sure, I don't know for sure what the salary was that was budgeted for the nighttime manager. But I'm wondering if-
65.
Yeah, it seems very low for the responsibilities in your opinion. I know I'm just saying, given your experience in economic development, it's not realistic.
69.5, yeah, okay, so, yeah, look, like. The ability to recruit the right person is based on a number of factors. One is which is compensation, right? But this is not unusual to find a community that there's such a commitment of people that grew up here in Providence and things. That right person may actually be here. Like I got multiple language skills in my department. You know, I'm using that effectively. Like these are the things that are there that may already exist. And so finding the right person, there might actually be somebody out there that may have had a business or did something that is uniquely qualified for that work, who might say, yes, I want to get back to my community and I can do it for the salary that's allowed. Other cities that have these positions, yes, they pay more money. But again, it's the reality of the world we live in now, right? We live to work in our own environment. We must live under our means and that's what we have. But look, if that person came in and didn't have all of what was needed, I suspect that the rest of whatever that is needed is already existing here in city government. We need someone that can direct that. That's an important part of the process, but I think we could support that in other ways. But yeah, look, I've been impressed. I'm safely in month number 11. I'm highly impressed with the staff that are here. And it's a treat for me to be here and work with them.
That was a very good answer.
Is there a follow-up on this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Madam Auditor, I'm sorry to not recognize you at the beginning of the meeting.
Maybe I didn't get the report, and I don't need to get it down, but, did we, because we don't have it included in the budget, we did not increase like police presence or EMS presence if we increase nightlife in the city? I mean, is that part of the report? Is there any consideration for that?
I'm not familiar with that aspect of it or how it affects police, fire, and any of that, but for the most part, it is about harnessing what already exists and working with the organizations like things like the sound that work that we're doing, right? How can we make it better? One of the things we spend a lot of time on is how can we remove any obstacle for a business to be successful, right? So yes, I suspect it does affect how the police operate and things like that, the more increased value. I'm not familiar myself, but I look at a report like this and say, these are real tangible things that we can do very effectively to help grow a piece of the economy that is booming. And so we want to make sure that we can support that. And there are other aspects of the city government that are working. The councilwoman and I just celebrated with the Cross Insurance Company, 80 new employees and new headquarters here in Providence. This is exciting. Insurance agencies moving here. American Cruise Boat Company is now operational at their new temporary dock over in Indian Point. So like things in the economy are going very, very well, and it does affect other departments. Again, it's in the same category. We'll figure it out. I don't have a better answer than that, but I know the chiefs and their managers in both of those departments are very open to doing what we're doing too in terms of people in person. But there's a cost to it. Very good question.
Yes, Councilor Sam.
Thank you. Last two questions. The first one, just for clarification, so that means Vital Records is also moving to 444?
No, so Vital Records will stay in City Hall. So Vital Records and licensing will be separating. Licensing will move to 444 and Vital Records will stay where they're at currently.
So who's gonna be in charge of Vital Records?
So that position is currently vacant, but they will be filling the registrar of vital statistics position in fiscal year 2026. Assuming the budget is approved.
So I guess what's the thought process behind separating those two departments that have been together for how long, our chief?
Well, probably the last 12 years together.
Larry was a baby.
They were previously separate.
They were previously
There
separate.
was, but there was a combined effort, I believe, in the middle of the Sicilian administration.
So I guess what's just for operation or what's the leading cause or reasoning to separate?
I really think it's to promote, licensing is really a kind of a business centric workshop, right? So they're dealing with a lot of businesses, whereas Vital Records are usually dealing with like individuals who come in and need birth certificates, death certificates, that sort of thing. So I think that, I wasn't necessarily part of the decision-making process, but I think the hope and expectation is by moving licensing under economic development, making the one-stop center. We have a whole business service center that businesses can come in and take care of all of what they need to do. Businesses aren't necessarily getting copies of birth certificates and marriage licenses and other records. Acting director, can talk about this when we get to Vital Records, but we have seen a decline in foot traffic related to Vital Records now that you can get those licenses at really anywhere in the state. And so, again, separating them is really allowing licensing to kind of stand on their own, be business centric, be in the one-stop center, and let Vital Records focus on what Vital Records does, which is printing copies of certified records.
And if I may,
Yes.
that's a very, very good answer, but licensing is more interdependent with other activities that'll be under the one-stop shop, whereas that's marriages is a one-stop in itself, but it's an occasion that occurs with birth, death, marriage. And license is interdependent to probably a number of activities of economic development, no doubt. If it's Sunday sales, if it's sidewalk applications. So.
Yeah, it appears to make sense. Just the last question I have, thank you, Chairman. Director, do you work, I know you work with obviously the planning director and his planning capacity hat. Do you work alongside or do you talk to him about the PRA and what they're doing in terms of economic development?
Yeah, I work very closely with the PRA. Chickatelli, who manages that, is my most immediate colleague to the office next to me. So we collaborate often. We have one example of PRA property is what we're doing at 50 Sims. This is something the city put out for bid. It's vibrant. Our workforce group is based there. A nonprofit runs it for 99 years. So we're looking at greatest and best use of PRA property and how we can leverage that. And including open spaces that the PRA may have that are doing that. How can we put those into the roles of back under the tax records and other things to make these things that are currently not effectively doing what they should be doing to make them better for the city. Certainly.
And did you have a question, Councilor Graves? No, you guys are doing. I can't remember, right? Councilor Ranger.
Thank you. Can I just ask a quick follow-up on the Vital Records? Sorry, I never know much Vital Records. If they're separated licensing, are we adding a new position, Vital Records, to lead Vital Records, or is there already someone kind of leading that effort that'll just be promoted or something?
So at this point in time, there's in the licensing department, there's a licensing administrator / registrar of Vital Records as the position, and that's like the director level position. And then there's a deputy director of licensing. The director position is being kind of divested into two positions. The registrar position will stay in the vital statistics budget. The licensing position will stay in the licensing department, and that salary will be unchanged. The deputy salary for the deputy licensing administrator is being repurposed to provide funding for the new registrar. So in total salaries, I think it ends up being like an $8,000 savings because the registrar of vital statistics is a grade below the deputy director of licensing. And that is in the presentations you'll see, I kind of have the mapping out of that in the licensing presentation and the vital records presentation. And, you know, if I'm being candid, this is, you know, that silly, cliche about like building a plane while you're flying it, like, a lot of this is timing, right? We know that we want to do this, the plan is still being developed, and there's really only one opportunity to amend ordinances per year. And so after the budget was submitted, as we were kind of reviewing all of these things in greater detail, we started to get in the weeds on some of these questions, and that's when I realized, oh, no, we need to actually formally move funding from this department into another department. Again, it's not an additional cost because the salary is budgeted, but we would need to reclassify it for final expenses.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And we'll get more information when we have licensing and vital statistics. That is Tuesday. No, they're not tonight.
Oh, there's nothing. Oh, the board canvassers.
Yes.
I mean,
Stay tuned.
stay tuned.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? Well, I'd like to thank you, Director and Deputy Director.
Thank you all. Thank you
Wow,
very much.
that's a lot in 11 months.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you. You all have all been very welcoming. We enjoy working with you. We are in your community and we look forward to doing more of that. So thanks for having us tonight. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, we're still waiting for Dr. Peterson for, rec. I'm so sorry. Steve, our director, our deputy director. So I think we're gonna take, parks. With lots of. Good to see you. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's the sidewalk up there.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you.
No sweat.
Should we also have the very fancy handout, or are we waiting for that?
Oh, please.
So let's all have one of those.
Definitely take a look and hand out.
Please, yeah, and there's, yeah, big and small.
Anybody? Yeah, they're big ones. Those are kidding. Sorry. Well, you should hand them all out.
Yes, sure, please.
I'm sorry, I keep everything down here. You mean like the binders and the acre?
Get stuck in.
All the pictures down.
If you move to the roof on.
Yeah.
Coming back.
There's pieces. I know, there's different stuff. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, bigger than you are.
Ticket box has the best handouts. You do it again.
Thank you.
Last handout? Okay.
Thank you.
We're gonna, before we begin, we are going to, mark these, are we marking these together? Or?
Yeah, I can be
Together, all right, so we are going to mark the proposed budget and parks department presentation along with the year in review, 2024 year in review, and the 2024 park improvements, all as exhibit number 20. I have a motion. Second. All right, motion made by Councilor Randall, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor? All opposed. This is, thank you, Superintendent Deputy, we really appreciate you coming this evening. Who is going to take this up?
I will start off with the financial presentation. This is a multi-division department. So we will be starting in the botanical division and their budget details are on page 176.
Breaking your budget books on 76?
Yes, and the budget book is not very exciting in this department. There's only salaries budgeted in this division. We will continue through all the divisions.
Okay, yes.
I am on slide 3. Total proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 is $764,423. This represents a $44,730 increase over the fiscal 2025 budget of $719,693 or 6.22%. Fiscal year 2025 salaries in the mechanical division were $346,897. We are making one adjustment in fiscal year 2026 for cost of living increases for eligible employees. That is valued at $9,652 for total proposed salaries of $356,549. Are there any questions on
I'm
the
just going to direct my colleagues to following along with the org chart. As long as you have it, the org chart is on the very back of this. Oh, yeah, why don't you pull that out so that you can follow along in the org chart?
Oh, it's in the back.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And so I'm just gonna stop you this for a minute and just ask, it doesn't look like there's any vacancies in the town center?
No.
No vacancies. Okay. All right. Good.
The next division is the forestry division, and their budget details are on page 178. Total proposed expenditures for the forestry division are $1,897,307. This represents an $88,894 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget of $1,808,323, or 4.92%. If we turn to slide 7, you can see that total proposed salaries in fiscal year 2025 are $923,817. We will be adjusting the fiscal 2026 budget for cost of living increases valued at $25,172. Step increases for $1,817. Additionally, the superintendent has worked with Local 1033 to establish a tree trimmer apprentice program. So in fiscal year 2026, we'll be funding 2 apprentices in lieu of 2 tree trimmers so that they can complete their appropriate training. And that is resulting in a savings of $10,297.
Yes, we'll just time for a minute, yes.
Thank you. So for the tree trimmers, so it looks like we have 1 vacant tree trimmer position, so that can fill them by 2 apprentices, or can you just explain the math there then?
So, right, we have 8 trimmers altogether, and the thought process was to have 2 apprentices. 2 slid into a tree trimmer, last year. Right now, we have 1 apprentice and 1 vacancy.
Okay.
So because we have a couple of younger tree trimmers and not by age and by experience,
Yes, I see.
we're going to post again for a trimmer and keep just 1 apprentice. Right, to try to get a more experienced person on staff.
Can I just follow up on that? So I would assume though, the tree trimmer apprentice program is to try to train people to be able to trim trees. So, I mean, I'm just questioning, are we still going to try to, when we have 1 vacant, are we still gonna try to train people? So that we have trimmers available in the future?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do that, but the reason why we also need, folks with experience is that we don't wanna have too many, new tree trimmers. The experience in tree trimming comes with years of being, on the job and, experience. I mean, it really comes down to that. It is one of the most dangerous jobs in the city, and we just had an incident today. So we really want to make sure that we have a good balance of folks who can train the apprentices and keep a new flow coming through, but also.
I know it's speaking, I'm not sure how the other committee members feel on this, but we have a big need for tree trimming. It seems like everybody's It's a huge need, and it seems that people are constantly asking, so, I'm glad we're focusing on making sure we're keeping this position going. Okay. Shall we proceed? Any more questions? Yes, Councilor Graves.
Are these full-time positions?
Yes.
Those salaries are just so low.
The hourly? Yes, please.
It says, there's only one vacancy in the three termers, but Jeff LaVoy is listed twice.
Oh, I'm sorry about
Are there actually two vacancies, or is there just someone else? who should
No,
go?
the other,
Yeah, same name.
Jeff Lavoy that's across from Brandon should be, Sergio Garcia.
Oh,
Okay,
I think.
yeah.
Great. And shall we proceed?
Hopefully. I'm on slide 8. The Forestry Division's budget has been broken up into fixed and discretionary cost. The first discretionary cost is the $1,250 budget for the annual forester number strips and training. There is $139,000 budgeted for Providence neighborhood planting program, block pruning, ash borer treatment, and tree installation as needed. And when it comes to supply line items, there is $7,500 in discretionary line item. This is for small tools and shop supplies, which would include chainsaws, replacement chains, pull saws, safety equipment. And the final cost in this budget is a fixed cost of $2,856, and this is the yearly maintenance agreement for tree keeper.
I just have a question on the ash borer treatment. How are we going about that? I mean, is that 139,000 that can be for all the ash borer?
There's a match in the Mary Sharp Fund for those programs, so it's a split.
And is that just being done this year, or how many years is that going on? I mean, the treatment.
It's every year, usually
Every
around
year.
this time of year, we actually just awarded it to Greenview recently.
Okay. So it's an annual.
Yes.
But that includes the block pruning that has a match to it, that 139 is not all ash borer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? Yes, Councilor Rainbow.
Just a quick comment, how great the need is, I just want to say Sam and his teams do a really great job. I know it's like, it keeps him busy, and I just want to say he does a really, really great job, and so I really want to say Sam and the whole team. So I just want to say
We
that.
appreciate it too. He's been an incredible addition to our team. He's done a really good job of addressing backlogs
Yeah.
and also training the staff, and we wouldn't have been able to do the apprenticeship program without his expertise.
All right, the next division is the Museum of Natural History. Their budget details are on page 180 of the budget book. Total proposed expenditures for this division are $666,559. This represents a $35,956 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget of $630,603, or 5.7%. By 11. Fiscal year 2025 salaries were budgeted at $356,435. In fiscal 2026, we are making an adjustment for cost of living increases of $10,037 and step increases for $1,497 for total proposed salaries of $368,769. This budget has been broken into fixed and discretionary service and supplies costs. The first discretionary supply cost is $2,500 for dues and subscriptions. This is funding for their annual newsletter. And the fixed cost in this budget is $16,000 under maintenance and service, and this is maintenance for the planetarium equipment at the museum.
Yes.
It looks like there's two vacancies, the planetarium programmer and the assistant. Are you guys filling those, or are they?
So Renee just submitted the recommendation for the museum assistant. Her last day was Friday, so hopefully we'll get the new one onboarded shortly. And the planetarium program is actually here until the end of June, but since this was based on July, I didn't, but we are currently posting, interviewing, and then that person will go in next.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions right now, or are we ready? Moving right along.
Okay, excellent. I encourage you to turn your budget books to page 182. We are now reviewing the neighborhood parks budget. Fiscal year 2026 total proposed expenditures are $8,735,353. This represents a $307,628 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget of $8,427,725, or 3.75%. Total salaries in fiscal year 2025 were $3,680,540. In fiscal year 2026, we are making adjustments for cost of living increases to the tune of $83,311 and step increases for $4,071. For total proposed fiscal 2026 salaries of $3,767,922. This department, services and supplies have been broken into fixed and discretionary costs. The services are included on slide 16. The first is $76,900, and this encompasses funding for turf improvements, any necessary playground equipment and fence repairs throughout the fiscal year. There's also $125,000 for refuse processing. This is trash pickup and processing fees for city parks throughout the city. Supply breakdown can be found on page 17.
Increase in the refuge process.
It's just based on historical spend. I think we see that, fiscal year 2025 or 2024 actual were $134,000. And there's since been a new agreement that executed with a new vendor, which is supposed to result in cost savings. Deputy Director Chevelle Burgess had mentioned that contract when she was reviewing her, NVE, work, yes. So that's part of the savings associated with it.
Yes, Pastor Burns.
Now that I'm looking at the trash pickup and processing food, Russell Boyle Park Playground, that little square. I got 3 complaints about the garbage that's sitting around in that park. They said they're all, the 2 trash cans are filled and there's piles of there, so I meant to be polite.
Yeah, I would recommend if that ever is the case, one, you can send me an email, I'll check it all the time, but you can also, I would recommend do a PDD 311. A lot of times what we find, particularly on a Monday, is that people clean their houses, and because in particular, that one at Joseph P. Hassett Park is on a very busy street, people see trash cans, and oftentimes people have gone there and they will leave whatever was in their household in the trash. So it's something that happens, and sometimes, you know, people might have a celebration in a park that we aren't aware of and is unpermitted and have a lot of trash. So just let us know and we'll send somebody. Yeah, we don't ever want trash to be sitting in a park.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not in Hassett, it's in Boyle.
Oh, in Boyle Square.
Yeah,
Okay. Same thing.
okay. It's just that it looks worse because that's based so.
Absolutely. Yeah, just let us know and we'll get somebody out there right away. Again, that's even more exposed park because it doesn't have a fence around it, so it's very easy.
Okay.
No, glad you asked. All right, now we go.
Excellent. Going to move on to supplies. The vast majority of the supplies do fall in the discretionary category. We have office supplies budgeted at $400, and that is for most, if not all, of the Parks Division. Small tools and shop supplies are budgeted at $27,500. This would be tools, rakes, brooms, any sort of safety or barrier supplies, as well as first aid related supplies. There's an allocation for any sort of plumbing supplies that are needed for the parks. That's budgeted at $18,000. Construction and maintenance supplies are budgeted at $50,400, and this is for any sort of ball field machine repairs, tools and equipment rentals, as well as park repair supplies. Lubricants have been budgeted at $9,000, which is a $1,000 increase and is supported by historical spending. Gravel sand has been budgeted at $80,000. Auto parts are at $88,640. Lumber and hardware at $17,000. Electrical supplies at $22,000 and tires at $13,000. Uniforms and wearing apparel are considered a fixed cost and are budgeted at $35,000 in fiscal year 2026. Maintenance and services also in the fixed cost category. This covers their security system, water treatment, fire suppression, yeast control, and backflow preventer testing. And I'm sure the director has a lot of fun yeast control stories she can tell. Repairs to equipment is considered discretionary cost. It's budgeted at $60,600, and this is any sort of repair costs for parks equipment ranging from mowers, tractors, etc. And there is a allocation to repairs to buildings of $60,000, which covers any sort of park building repairs.
And why the 20, why is that less 25,000? I'm just asking on the repairs through a building.
Yeah, again, it's just based on historical spend. So when we looked at the budget for fiscal year 2026, we tried to find efficiencies in every line item we could. So if we saw that a line item had historically come in under budget, we did reduce that line item to bring it into budget. Actuals for this line item in fiscal year 2024 were $56,000. So 60 seemed reasonable.
Okay. Questions on this? Yeah.
North Burial Ground.
Before we go on, I'm sorry, I should have been asking, we have some vacancies.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if we might go through those in here and go with regard to them.
So when it comes to the equipment operators, we have 2 vacancies. The position is currently posted and interviews are in process. Same with the laborer position. We have a lot of shifting. So if someone moves or gets a CDL, they go to an equipment operator and then it kind of shifts and plays around that way. So those 3 positions are posted and hopefully filled soon.
Okay, so that is, I'm sorry, which ones again?
2 in the, 2 for equipment operators,
Yeah.
and 1 for a laborer.
Okay, and then 4th person, is that filled?
We have 6 for people.
6.
Yeah,
Okay,
yep.
sorry.
So they're all there.
And 2 of them we took for the apprenticeship program, 3 of them actually. So,
Okay,
so
all
the
right.
apprenticeship that Crystal was mentioning.
Okay, and the maintenance man, is that all, maintenance man 4, is that filled?
They are, there's only 7 of those,
Okay,
so we have all of them.
all right, you have all of them, and the equipment operator.
Mhm.
Okay. So you have no reason, well, they're going to be filled.
Yes.
Shortly. Okay. All right. Okay. On we go.
Plans. We are now reviewing the North Burial Ground division. They're on page 185 of your budget book. The North Burial Ground is a revenue generating division. It is generated from a portion of the sale of burial plots. There's also additional revenue of $260,000 included in the non-departmental budget. So historically, the city assumes that it will generate $600,000 annually from activities related to the North Burial Ground, whether that be the sale of plots or a transfer from the perpetual care fund, which is established to set up perpetual care of North Burial Grounds. And so what we do throughout the year is we monitor these revenues. If, for example, like in fiscal year 2024, the North Burial Ground fees exceed the budgeted amount of $340,000, we request less of a transfer from the perpetual care fund. So we're always generating $600,000 in revenue from those activities combined. Okay. Total expenditures in fiscal year 2026 are proposed at $890,295. This represents a $64,606 increase over the fiscal 2025 budget of $825,689. When we look at total salaries in fiscal year 2025, they were budgeted at $405,701. In fiscal year 2026, we are making an adjustment for cost of living increases with $11,433 and step increases of $10,062. The total salaries in fiscal year 2026 of $427,196. I'm scared if there's any.
Yes, Council Linderbaugh.
Good question. One, obviously, you know, the North Burial Ground is the best. And how is there no other expense, like, we just have salaries, are there no fixed, like, any of the cost, like discretionary costs, like, or does that all fall under?
Their revolving.
Okay.
Yeah. So the bulk of those expenditures do come out of the perpetual care fund. The reimbursement to the general fund is mostly covering all of the salaries and any other operating costs we would incur.
I think for anyone watching, North Burial Ground has some new sweatshirts on sale, and they're pretty amazing. I'm definitely gonna buy one. They have a priority on them, so just put that out there.
How do we get those?
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Through parks.
Through parks.
Okay. I have, yes, Counselor Sanchez.
Can you just remind us what that fund is, exactly, and how it has money that pays for, the majority of the cemetery expenses?
Yes, so I don't have the exact breakdown, but every time a plot is sold in the North Burial Ground, a portion of the revenue goes into what's known as the perpetual care fund. It's a trust fund that was established to provide perpetual care for the North Burial Ground. And that continues to grow annually, and then the other portion of the revenue comes into the general fund. And so that, I think it's what, Fund 801? 680, I'm sorry.
So a portion of the sale plots also goes to general fund?
Yes,
Yes.
that's the $340,000 that's in this budget.
And, follow up on that, who manages that or oversees that fund?
It's the cemetery director and the parks, so, and Lisa Hefner is really like the director in charge of that fund, and she builds a budget for it annually. And then all of the central purchasing and all of the other, you know, like any other parks division, it would flow up through the superintendent and then superintendent.
And it is ultimately managed by the Board of Park Commissioners, and so every year, Annalisa, the director, will come to the Board of Park Commissioners and will request amount to be withdrawn down from the trust and explain what all of those expenses are being used for.
If I may add, Madam Chair and Councilman, that transfer occurs once annually. It's now before the Board of Investment Commissioners, which you are a member of, and so a letter will be arriving within the next month or so. And we will have that as a vote on the Board of Investment Commissioners.
Thank you.
Just a last question regarding cemeteries. Is this the only active city-owned burial ground?
Unless it's Halloween, yeah, no, no, Locust Grove is also, city owned, the city took possession of that in the 1980s. With a very, 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 very almost non-existent trust that we are still actively burying people there. Folks who have previously bought lots, so there's no land available that we bought before, we will bury it there.
And is it the same like crew at North Burial Ground that does that work too?
We combine that with our neighborhood park services because Locust Grove is also a neighborhood park that's open and available to all tours. And we also have Roger Billiams family cemetery where we're not.
Thank you.
And that is very different than the one Roger Williams Cemetery that is adjacent to Roger Williams Park that is owned by the city of Cranston.
Correct. It's the Oakland one.
Okay, Counselor Graves.
You only have one laborer, this is all the staff that you have for an operator.
Yeah, but we have equipment on it.
Yeah, I see you with those.
And the temporary employees, the seasonal ones are really, really helpful, particularly like right now, getting all of the cemeteries ready for Memorial Day. It's a really good job. And in addition to our folks in North Burial Ground, one of the things that we've been able to do over the years is really break down silos, so everybody helps out. So our neighborhood crews, our names, everybody helps.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we move on? Okay.
The next division is the superintendent of parks. The budget details for this division are found on page 187 of your budget book. This department does generate revenue. Revenue in fiscal year 2026 is budgeted at $56,092, and this is a payroll reimbursement from the Providence Parks, from the Partnership for Providence Parks for the Conservation Program Coordinator position that is included in our budget.
I would love to. This is one of my favorite positions. I actually started this position long before becoming superintendent, and that's our urban wildlife coordinator. And this is funded by National Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as a couple of other entities, and we get grants for this and work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, particularly the refuges in Southern Rhode Island. And folks may know this is April's job, where she goes and she works for teachers and schools to help them use our parks as outdoor learning experiences. It's an incredible program in wildlife conservation and education. And we are in every school in Providence, and one of the highlights of it is the Teacher Institute, where we teach teachers how to, again, use our parks for outdoor studying, so they can, even if they've got a tiny schoolyard, they can study the burying beetles out there and do all that kind of stuff, so it's really neat. April left us after 10 years. She's with the Audubon Society now, but we just hired a couple weeks ago, a woman named Emily Cornelison, who we're really, really excited to have on board. And I think I'm looking forward to introducing her to everybody. I think this is going to be a really big thing as Providence heads back their schools and makes the case for our parks our resource for our schools. And this position will play a big role.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we stopped and discussed that. Thank you very much. Okay.
Slide 24, total proposed expenditures in the superintendent's department are $2,189,364. This represents a $159,449 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget of $2,029,915. Fiscal year 2025 salaries were budgeted at $1,028,680. In fiscal year 2026, we'll be making adjustments for cost of living increases for $25,677 and step increases for $7,347. Total to bring us to total proposed fiscal 2026 salaries of $1,061,704. This department's budget has been broken into fixed and discretionary costs. The first large fixed cost is building insurance. This is insurance for all parks buildings. They are not self-insured for these buildings. And that budget is increasing by almost $50,000 based on historical increases we've seen in market trends. Postage is considered a discretionary line item in this budget, and is budgeted at $500. Program expenses are budgeted at $9,000, and this provides funding for fitness in the park. Professional development is also budgeted in the discretionary category, and it is $4,500 in fiscal year 2026. Office supplies are budgeted at $2,688, and there is a fixed cost of their copier and lease maintenance at $15,000 annually.
May I just ask about the fitness in the park program?
Yes.
How's that, and where is that?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So that is a really, really big program that we do. You have not met her yet. Rachel Colace is a full force on this. So if you want a program in your park, she is more than happy to do that and get that going. She meets with all the friends groups, but she does a lot more than fitness in the parks. And we also get additional grant funding for fitness in the parks, and we also work with senior services on fitness in the parks as well. So a lot of different things go into that. It's tied to the meals program as well, getting kids active, as well as grown-ups in the park. Also our like music series. Those are all things that Rachel does. So this is a very, very small amount of money for the amazing things that happen. But you can do a parkour class, you can do Zumba, salsa, bachata. If you haven't done that at the Roger Williams Park and Gateway on Saturday mornings, that's really a big hit. And most of these programs happen during the warmer months, but then some of them move into the Gateway during the winter months too, to give people options. But you never need to join a gym. We've got 18 outdoor fitness places in the city. So you can go and work out in your neighborhood park, and we just added one to Roger Williams Park, which is really this cool structure called Ecosystem by Active. And you can go to the Gateway and either sign up for a class or borrow the equipment to take and use there. So just like, any high quality gym. So you can all cancel your memberships and just fitness in the parks. And if anybody wants to do something, just call me and I will do it for you.
Love hearing that.
And I just want to give a shout out to
Yes, please. Council Graves.
yeah, she's a foster. She makes sure she gets you that email, she makes sure she comes to the meeting, whatever, she's there. She's always trying to get people out and involved. So, shout out to her.
Yeah, Rachel, great, thank you. Okay.
All right, and we are in the last division of this.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm always like interrupting. And so, on the organization part, I'm sorry, so are you acting?
I am acting, but I'm not it. So Kristen will be starting at the end of July. We did hire a permanent person.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
And Crystal, if I can give her a shout out, public here, is just doing an amazing job, particularly with the finance piece that was really the primary responsibility of what Brian did. So.
We agree, Madam Chair.
So Crystal, she's moving over?
I'm the manager of fiscal operations,
Oh.
so I'm still here. I'm just in another box.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so, like, all right, I understand now. Thank you very much for your service. Sorry about that. Okay.
This was the please, Crystal.
Hard to say no, isn't it, Crystal?
It is. Pretty convincing.
All right, thank you.
Okay, excellent. The final division is, starts with Z, we're in zoological services. Their budget details begin on page 190, and there are only salaries and benefits in this division. Total budget fiscal year 2026 is proposed at $3,798,847. This represents a $204,958 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget, or 5.7%. And then to slide 29, we see that fiscal year 2025 salaries were budgeted $1,805,936. Cost of living increases can add to the fiscal year 2026 budget for $45,755 to bring us to total proposed salaries of $1,851,691. And that wraps up the Parks Department from my presentation.
Yes, Counselor. Thank you.
I just want to, so on the org chart, under Director of Revenue and Services and Director of Animal Programs, there's no one listed in their salary this year. Is that because they're funded somewhere else?
They're paid by the Zoological Society.
Okay. And what else is covered by the Zoological Society?
All supplies, everything. We only cover the union members, the keepers and the needs. Everything else is. And utilities.
Every year I ask you the same question.
It's fine.
My brain, so I'm so sorry.
It's a lot.
And you get the same answer.
Yeah, no, I think you get the same answer. We can look back.
Any other questions? Well, I just, hi, yes, okay. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Just, maybe it's every year, but why is it that we don't have the zoological before us?
Well,
Just ask that question. That's what it is.
yeah, it's a different budget, it's not general, but I'll let.
Right, but it's a different budget, but under what budget is it that we don't have any oversight, just like any other, commission?
No, the Zoological Society manages the zoological positions, and the city of Providence co-manages the positions they're all temporary positions, that we manage, that's the zookeepers and the vet techs. So those are all city employees, and so that's what we do. But Stacy Johnson and I, the director of the zoo, work very closely together to make sure that, that any city position has the city representation through HR and through other things like that, and where it's applicable, Stacy involves me in a lot of the business of the zoo. And I also am a ex officio member of the Zoological Society board, and that position confers with the superintendent.
Yes, Chief.
And the Zoological Society, not to be taken for granted, is a non-city private nonprofit having no jurisdiction.
I understand. For you all set up for that.
Yeah,
We wouldn't be overseeing them. And at all. They're not
At all.
City department.
right. And just for clarification, in terms of the revenue, just goes straight to that entity.
Correct.
Do they issue an annual report to at least the parks commissioners or the city council,
They do it to their own board.
to their own board? All right. Thank you.
Just to follow up on this, and it's a good, learning opportunity. Is this a model pretty common practice with, zoos across the country? So I guess my question is, Zoological Society, is that a national org or is that specific to Rhode Island? And then I guess like the question that made me like think of all this is like, one is obviously very dependent of the other. We don't fund this, the zoo closes, if the Zoological Society doesn't fund their part, the zoo closes.
So in terms of national models, there are a variety of different ways that happens. There's certainly this model exists. But back in the 1970s, the zoo was really struggling under all city purview, oversight, so to speak, and it was Sophie Danforth who really worked on developing the Zoological Society to develop the zoo and bring it into the modern organization that it is today. And we have the best animal care. And it is managed, it is overseen by the American Zoological, the ACA, they have the A's mixed up on that, but the American Zoological Association, who has regulations on how many employees that you can have, the kind of standard of care for the animals and the environment, all of those conditions. And there's an annual review every single year where the zoo is really held to task on all of the ACA requirements. And every year they do exceptionally well. So, you know, they're doing a great job, but it's the partnership has worked out, I think, very well. And the city has a 20-year agreement. I think we're in year 11 of that now, 10 or 11, to do this work.
I just, if I may,
Yes.
I just would recommend that at least from the Zoological Society or whoever runs the zoo, at least they can provide that report to the city council and the commissioners of parks. That's a recommendation.
I don't either. I mean,
I know that, but I'm just making that recommendation, that's all.
thank you. Yes.
Donation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You donate to the zoo, they send you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's most likely a public record.
Yeah, it's probably on the website.
Yeah, so then it should be an easy task.
I'm just, I mean, for us to have the quality zoo that we have, for the size city we have, this is highly unusual, isn't it?
Yes,
I mean, this is a gem.
and it is the #1 tourist attraction in the state, so it has a really big impact on our local and state economy.
And if it weren't for the Zoological Society, we would not have one. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
They were really heroes in bringing that, you know, this was a time when animals were throughout Dr. Williams Park in pretty deplorable conditions. And the Zoological Society was really formed to make animal care the primary focus.
So to ask any questions of them, would be looking a gift horse in the mouth, so to speak. I'm just gonna
No
say.
pun intended.
Funny.
We don't have to around.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But just to see the gem, how clear it is.
I think we're very honored.
That's it, yes.
Appreciative of the Zoological
Absolutely.
Society.
It's within the city of Providence and also within my ward, but at the same time, that's why I just ask in essence and more clarity. That's all.
I'm sure that you can get that.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Yes,
please.
I just want to say, since we're wrapping up parks, on the record, that Wendy and her team do such an amazing job.
Yes.
It's always stunning how much you get done, the crew you have, and like, they're so professional, and like, you somehow turn like a dime into like an entire park, and I don't know how you do it, and just on the record, just want to say you do a great job. I'm so glad that you are going to be with us for another term. You just got reappointed on the Parks Commission, so just wanted to say that.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And just want to, I guess, more, people are so excited that you got that fountain working again in Libet Park. It is like, everyone is stunned that it is back on, and so thank you for getting the fountain back on.
Okay, can I tell one quick story about that? So for years, we've had consultants, we've had professionals, fountain experts, what have you. And
It can't be done, this can't be done, we can patch this, we can do this. Our team worked for about 6 to 8 months figuring out, like studying everything they could about fountains, figured out a way to do it and managed to do it for maybe a third of the cost. And it's working brilliantly, so, and they're hooking it up also to cameras and, you know, an automated system too, so they're really, they really are talented, and when I say breaking down silos, it's across division, it's experts in one division sharing with another, it's just really, they're brilliant, and we're so incredibly proud and excited to come to work every day, so, and, yeah.
No, I think we are very grateful.
Yes, we
We have
are.
the wonderful parks in our city.
They're really getting better and better every day. Yes, see that shade sale opening up today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Last night was Prospect Terrace, so we were at Brazilian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a Friday, it's not, I can't go, I'm so excited to go on Thursday, and the rain,
Oh, the penguin, give me one.
it was supposed to be on Thursday, but it moved to Friday. And now I'm depressed because I can't go.
The Brittany County Village Taylor?
Yeah. Oh, no, no, the penguins.
The penguin.
Oh, yes, the
That
penguin.
got me. But we should talk about the river goes to Billy Taylor.
Yeah, it's the same thing, yeah, they're watching.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you for the beautiful, Yeah.
Okay.
All right, now we're gonna do reps. Sorry. Kelly's not here. Well, not.
I think I already moved from the 20. Some of the issues.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Director.
These are extras. Oh, yeah. Those are.
Thank you.
One person is missing. Not as long.
So we have to, Nan, please, with our proposed budget for recreation along with the, fiscal year 2025 annual report as exhibit number 21, have a motion. Second. Very motion made by Council Ingersoll, second by Council Graves, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Director and Deputy Director, for coming. Thanks. We're going to start with our report, so please proceed.
Thanks. I encourage everyone to turn to page 260 in your budget book, where you can see the details of this budget proposal. I'm on slide 2 of the PowerPoint presentation. Fiscal year 2026 proposed budget is $3,401,444. This represents a $98,630 decrease from the fiscal year 2025 budget of $3,500,074, or a reduction of 2.82%. There is also a recreation seasonal budget. However, I didn't get into the details of that later in the deck, since it's really just salaries and benefits and they are level funded. So I have included on slide 3 a reference to the 2025 budgets. As you can see, the only change is the reduction of services of $65,000. That was budgeted in miscellaneous expenses in fiscal 2025 and was for referee fees. At that time, it was contemplated that they would be paid as private contractors. However, throughout fiscal year 2025, the department has made the choice to pay them as employees.
which means they are charging to that temp salary line, and we've seen that they've been able to stay within budget by charging the referees there. And so there's no need for the additional 65,000 in funding to maintain their current service. Total salaries in the recreation budget were budgeted in fiscal 2025 at $1,912,795. In fiscal year 2026, we're proposing the following adjustments. Cost of living increases for $50,538. Step increases for $35,347. They will be requesting to defund the assistant athletic director position, which is currently vacant. That salary in fiscal 2025 is budgeted at $43,352. There will also be defunding the community-based organizations coordinator position, which is also vacant. That salary is $69,683, as well as the floating recreation center director, which was a salary of $66,285 for total proposed budget. For total proposed fiscal year 2026 salaries of $1,819,360.
Maybe we pause there, and talk about the, like the version of the director, as to why we are defunding these three positions.
You know, I think all departments there, have to be some tough, budget decisions that were being made. Assistant athletic director, I'll start there. It's a very difficult position to fill. It is one of our few 1033 positions, and most of our programming is between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. or on Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The idea for that position was to have them work during those hours because that's when our athletic events actually occur. Unfortunately, I have to pay overtime for every hour that they work during our athletic events. And so it just wouldn't make sense to staff that position and then just have to pay them overtime for all of our activities that are happening.
Okay, so what are you doing instead?
We do have a current athletic coordinator, so we're just refunding the assistant athletic coordinator. So we have one right now, and what we're doing is we are, and we've worked on this, we've talked about this in the past. Some of the things that a person would do, we've converted to a lot of like online management and self-sufficiency in terms of how you interact with the department. So that makes it a little bit easier for registration purposes and making sure that the community knows about the athletic events and how to participate in them. So it's one of those things where I think economic development kind of talked about as well. We're cross-trained in the department, so we can pick up any vacancies or deficiencies of not having a position there.
Okay, how about your community-based organization coordinator? Because I remember, I'm sorry, when we had you here last year, there were some, I thought, very good plans for you to.
Yeah.
Organization and staff appropriately so we can serve our community. So that's one I'm asking.
When we were looking at positions that are gonna be vital for us going forward. We were actually able to hire another position which has a very similar job description. It's the director of the Elmwood Community Center, who also it's a building, but it's also serving as the mission for our community engagement for the city and for the department. We hired a wonderful individual, Ceci Granados, who's doing an outstanding job of working with our community engagement and with the increased technology and some of the creative things that we're doing with internships, which you'll see later on in our annual report. We're able to efficiently handle our community engagement while we are building the capacity for our recreation center directors to do the same thing. And that's something we did have in the years past, where now we're collaborating on that at the recreation center level and not just at the main office level. So it was able to, kind of figure out where we could find some savings in a very difficult budget.
Okay, so that person is the director of ECC.
Yes.
Okay, in your org chart.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the floating, I remember the discussion about the floating rec center director. So
Yes.
What's happened there?
That was a kind of a position that we use as special projects, and that person was actually David Onyman, who was in that position prior to now. He was recently promoted to deputy director. What that person did in that position was build all the systems and processes and structure to be able to do some of the things that we described. So while it was a great opportunity to be able to get him into the deputy director, he did build a lot of our infrastructure, which is allowing us to be more automated and find some savings in the in the budget to be able to now just maintain those systems and be able to get them out to the rec center directors as well.
Yes, Counselor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. First, just want to obviously thank the director and congratulate David on the recent promotion. I spent a lot of time with these gentlemen as a member of the rec board. Shout out to our clerk's office that has traveled to almost every single rec center to have these meetings. Chairman of the board is here also. So we constantly hear, Director, on how, not just you right here in front of us, but during these tough conversations on how departments are gonna still be able to manage operations and implement the programming and different services that the city offers. But I think it's important for this committee to hear what would your department be able to do if we funded all three of those or any three of those positions?
I think that the pace of which we are able to accomplish some of those goals would be increased. And I think that for like contingency, it's important to have folks in positions where if you move pieces around, it's important to have folks that can step in and be able to handle some of the expansion of services and programs that we have. So I think that's really where we be able to take advantage of the positions. What we're doing to kind of pivot is really increasing our training and the capacity of directors and assistant directors in the centers, as well as our collaborations with some of the colleges and universities to bring in interns that can fill in those capacities as well. But having someone consistently there would obviously be a benefit and allows us to accomplish our goals a lot faster.
Thank you, sir.
Any other
No,
questions?
no.
Okay, and then maybe we could just, since we're on the order.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about how all your directors are doing and your assistant directors. And the various rec centers.
We've actually had a really good year for them. In October of 2024, we built a brand new performance evaluation system, which combined SMART goals that will give them, and a lot of it was based on attendance and participation, community engagement, policy and protocol, programming and events, and donations and revenue. And we also gave them the opportunity to give us their own goals, and we would talk about how we're going to support what you want to accomplish. So we talked about that in October, and then we officially began in January. And so for the directors, we've had one-on-one meetings with each of them every single month since January. And what that has done is it has had increased their capacity and their ability to get out into the community. There are now events and community engagement opportunities happening that I didn't create, and we didn't create from the main office. And a lot of collaborative events, a lot of that you can see on our Instagram and on our socials. But they're really doing a good job of taking advantage of what's in their community, because we're going to need the support if we're going to be able to support the kids in the community in terms of programming services. So that was a huge step for us to be able to implement something where I'm giving you goals based on a director perspective, but then you're telling me what you need. And then we literally created the intranet and support mechanism to be able to support whatever they want to do, as well as now giving them their individual support fund accounts so that they have the financial assistance to be able to do that and make decisions and empower themselves in their own centers to be able to do it.
Talk to me on the individual support accounts, how does that go?
So we've been working for the last 2 years with finance, the controller's office, with treasury to build these individual support fund accounts. There was a goal in mind where we're eventually gonna turn them into merchandise stores where they can actually raise their own revenue in a recreation center, following our all the city's accounting principles and everything that we put in place. But prior to then, everything would just get dumped into our 688 account. And so if you were a director that was really doing a great job, rentals, getting donations, getting into your community and making sure that your center is getting supported, it's all going into the same fund. And I wanted to reward them for their hard work and be able to, give them, that financial assistance and have that decision be theirs, right? And so that's why we created the individual, support fund accounts, and they'll be able to use them, to basically like purchase an inventory and sell merchandise and be able to provide things for each recreation center.
So, is each one of them, funded originally with the same amount?
Yes,
Okay, and what is that?
we started with $1,000 each.
1,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right, and then, and then they have, I'm sorry. If they have their own, 1,000 is very small, so I'm surprised. But do they have to adhere to the procurement policies? Of the
Absolutely.
city?
Yes.
How does that work?
All their ordering still goes through us. So if there's a question about something that they want to order, they have a form on our intranet that they go and they fill out, it comes to us, and we still place the order from the main office, and we follow all the procurement processes. But just the fact that they know what's in their account and they have the ability to kind of budget out themselves and kind of see what they want to provide as resources, it's building their capacity to kind of manage their center.
I know that our auditor, Madam Auditor, has some questions.
Rec center always had their own, broken down in long term. I could look into each one, and each one of them already had their own account, so how is it different?
It's being utilized better. I'm not sure if you've looked at the actual history, but if you look at what's been spent out of 688 and reported in revenue in 688, which is the special revenue fund for rec centers, it's all been reported as either administrative or miscellaneous expenses. And so what the directors are alluding to is they're actually going to start using that infrastructure that has been there for quite some time. It just hasn't been utilized efficiently. So we actually had a workshop Friday, right? Where we would bring, like, gave them a little cheat sheet to work off of, so that when they're procuring things and they're reporting revenues, that they know exactly what account they need to record those things in, so that when we run reports, this information is available. To the auditor's point, this has always been, the infrastructure was there, it just wasn't necessarily being utilized in the correct way.
I just wanted to defend the city in a whole, saying that we did have this in place, it's not like the city never did this before, that's all. I just didn't want anyone to think that this was done incorrectly.
No. I'd say if anything, I think probably when it was started, it was done and recorded that way, and then over time, as people have changed and transitions have changed, it's gotten very easy. And we see this in all departments, that's part of why I've been really pushing people to take things out of miscellaneous expenses and put them in individual line items. People just get in the habit of putting the revenue in this same bucket or putting the expense in the same bucket, and it just is habit more than anything. So we are really like working with the directors and their staff to figure out a better way that, at the point that the data is first entered into our ERP, ensuring it's recorded in the most detailed accounting stream format possible, so that those reports are then possible, because you can only get the data you enter into a database, so.
Well, thank you. Okay, and also on org chart, are all the directors, we have a vacancy, one vacancy?
We have a vacancy of Vincent Brown with the assistant director.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
And we have a vacancy at the director of Kennedy Recreation Center.
Okay.
So the AD is posting the position pretty soon.
Okay, I'm sorry, the AD is being posted?
It's posted already.
Okay, is posted, and how about the director of Kennedy?
Hasn't been posted yet, but it will be posted soon.
Okay. Oh, yes, Counselor Vanderbilt.
Thank you for all you do, I have next, especially being back for all. Can you talk about the directors all make, different amounts? Two of which are three of which are way different from the others, one is way different, but what's the discrepancy in the size of the directors? Is it longevity, is it?
Yeah, a lot of that's longevity, when you were hired into the city. And then if you're newer, I don't think the director's got a step increase for 5 years either, so So it depends on when you were hired, how long you've been with the city. So some of it, like you're seeing is just COLA. And they may have, some of them have been here for over 10 years, so they may have seen different step increases along the time, but for the last 5 years, nobody has got anything, so it's a little bit different now. Yeah.
Yes. I actually add as well, these are positions that are ranges in the ordinance, so that will also attribute to larger gap from one position to another, depending on performance-based increases and on a variety of other.
Yes, yes, Madam Moderator.
I'd like to add some history to this, Councilor Conklin, President.
Can you speak up? So that way it could be,
Councilor Conklin was president. This is how far back it goes. There was only one grade, it was an A10. The rec center directors never got a raise, they were not in a range, they were at A10 forever, probably step one forever. So he said, well, why is someone here for 10 years and they're making the same as the person who just came in? Let's put them on a range. So if they come in at an A10 step one, then they go to step two. So after 15 years, if they're still here, they should be at an A13 step five.
Yeah.
But now someone comes in at year one and they're in A13 step four, someone who's been here since 2019, they're in A10 step one. How that's fair, I don't know, but I'm just letting you know
That's
that it's just be longevity with the city with the steps.
Okay. And that's why the discrepancy. Okay. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, so that's
all. Does that answer your question, Councilor Grace?
No.
Okay.
Because number 9 on here, Cece,
Sassy?
Yes. They were basically just hired, compared to the rest of them. But they're making more than everybody here. They're at, A13. Why?
She has a different responsibility than the other directors. They focus on just their recreation center. She focuses on that building as well as all the other recreation centers, community engagement, so through the entire city.
So she's a floater or what is she?
No, she is the director of the Elmwood Community Center, which
Okay,
also
so I'm,
serves
okay,
as
I'm
the-
looking at the wrong
Yeah.
shop then.
Yeah,
Okay.
but she doesn't serve the Elmwood Community Center. She does the community engagement, and helps other directors and trains them on community engagement, does the tabling at all the, city events that we do. She organizes that. She's building the, community engagement network for the department, so she actually does a lot. And I think on page, like in the annual report, it kind of details like what community engagement that she's responsible for. So you go to page 57, there's some of it, and what she's looking to do. But that stuff is department wide, so that's why it's a different role and responsibility.
First, I gotta find the page.
Yeah. It's in a couple places, like, page 49 to, 51, and then also on page, 55, I'm sorry, not 55, but, 57. So all of that community engagement that we're seeing there, all that work is being done by her.
Okay. I'm also looking at her. And the thing, what is the thing with, Derek Jones, another person that came in late 24, that seems to be making more than
I didn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
Derek, Jones, and I'm not trying to take any money from nobody, I'm just questioning. He's 59, so where is he? And
He's at Sackett.
And why is he A11? It's not like longevity.
Yeah, so some of our newer hires, to be competitive and to make sure that we are hiring, expert individuals. He has a wealth of history, in the city of Providence, doing work like this and comes in with a lot of experience, for that position. So whenever I hire somebody new, I'm looking at like what the rates are now. I never agreed with like, I think they should all be paid more. And so I look at the experience that they have, what they've done in the city, and we make that determination based on when we're hired, since we have a range.
Okay, so you have people here that have been there for a while. And, you're bringing this person in at a much higher rate, really. Do you think that that's gonna mess with morale?
I think that one of the things that we've been able to do, is, again, this is the first time, in, I believe, 5 years that any of them got a step increase. And so, we've talked about that, and I've met with individual directors. This is, there are some of them are also getting performance-based increases as well. And so I think in terms of morale, it's actually been pretty good because of those factors, because we're rewarding them for what you've done and your experience as well. So I think morale is pretty good when it's, you know, considering the fact that, like, we are working towards these steps to make sure that they can get an increase and earn that as well.
Yes, go ahead.
I know, I have to go on cause and I hate to beat this in the bush, but you're talking about, experience. Some of these people have been with the rec for a while, but they have a lot of experience in other things too. And, so I think my, thing is, I'm looking at Anthony Lindsay. I've been knowing Lindsay since they were babies, so he grew up in the rec. So I think you probably have more experience if you grew up in that particular rec, you know, that particular community and all that other stuff. And this is the only one I really can point at. But he's still one of the low men on the totem pole. And the 2019 and 2024, end of 2024, it's kind of, I don't know if I don't like to micromanage, I really don't. But it seems like the lower you are, the higher you're gonna get paid. I can understand you bringing in people with experience. But if the better experience is if you lived it, you're there all the time, you grew up in it, you've been doing it for years. That longevity and stuff seems like, you know, this is to me, it's still a smack in the face. If I was there, my morale would be really, really.
Well, he actually got promoted. So he wasn't in that position prior to that. I actually did promote him into that position, so he did get a significant raise at the time. So he's only been in that position, I think he's been in that position for less than a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. The other thing is. I'm sorry.
No, you go right ahead.
I know that there's been a lot of rumbling and maybe I should let the person who, rec is in this area talk about this, but you know. The streets talk, people are talking, people are complaining about somebody didn't get fired, they were on this and they stayed there forever and ever and then we have somebody that just got fired and I don't know, Shelley, is this something that you want to speak on?
Before we speak on this,
I would
yeah.
caution you about speaking of employment matters because
I understand.
the individual needs to be
Yeah.
advised, we gotta go into executive session. We are
Okay.
not noticed to go into executive session, it's not posted, so I would caution any type of discussion like that.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna have to really talk that of somewhere around about that, but that's on Shelley. My other question is, who is Cecil?
Cecile,
Yes.
assistant director.
Yes, because apparently they're not on, are they being hired? Is this someone coming in new or?
No, they've been in the position for a few years. Cecile Vega, assistant director at Johnson.
Okay.
Cecile,
Vega.
Jocelyn?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cause I was like, I don't think I recognize this name, but if they've been there for a while.
They do have a hyphenated name, so she prefers to go by Cecile Vega, so if you see a different name, there is a hyphenated name, I believe,
Okay.
that she uses. Because of a personal situation.
No, you don't. Okay, I think that may have been. One more question.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Whatever it is.
And this is, I think we've been trying to ask for everybody, and that's, the vehicles, how many vehicles go home? I know yours, just two. Okay, and is there any, thing that says it's part of the city of Providence? Do any of our vehicles say that these vehicles are part of the city of Providence? And it may not be for you, it may be for.
Like, are the
There's a
vehicles
logo on the
All of
car.
our vehicles are marked with
There's
city
an ordinance
seals.
that
and emblem.
mandates it.
Okay. And they're all take home?
They're not all taken.
Okay. And most of the people that you're bringing in, they're from the city of Providence, because I don't recognize a lot of them. So I'm assuming that a lot of the people in the rec department are from the city of Providence, or grew up in the city of Providence.
A lot of them have, yes. A couple of them are from outside, but have been here for a while. But I'm not from Providence. I've been here for like 15 to 20
Yeah,
years.
you've been here for a while now.
So, but yeah, so like, there's a lot of people that either from here or lived here for a long time.
Okay. The only reason I'm saying that is the recs are one of the places where they really do have a close connection with the community itself. They're the ones that people see, they're the ones that people, and it seems to me that the better they seem to know that person, the easier it goes in that community, because people are already have trust in them. Because the rest of us, you know, the forestry person, nobody really sees him until he comes in, you know, all these type of things, but your guys and gals are the ones that are the faces of everything. And they do more in the community that we can see, because they're the ones that are there for our children. I mean, they're next to the teachers, you know, they're right on top of the teachers, so. I really, really like the things that are going on at the recs. I just hope that we can keep up morale. I hope that we can keep up the closeness and keep it going that way. So like I said, there's a lot of little, you and I will talk later, because I can talk to you about what's not. But on the whole, I'm happy with it.
Oh, good. Madam, first will be Counselor Anderson, and then I'm gonna do, Madam Mulder.
This is just a quick note, and I don't know what we do about this one budget year, which is a hard budget year, but just for future years, I would love when things are less. Anyway, I'm just gonna say what I'm saying. These salaries are so low, and they provide such like a valuable service for our community, and so I just want to say that, like, I would love for us to figure out in future years how to pay them with their work, which I think is more than this.
Yeah, and any opportunity that I actually have, that's what I try to do is,
Yeah.
so it's.
I know it's like different, you got, oh, who's like, why is someone more, and I just want all of them to do more, it's like the point I'm trying to get at here.
Madam Auditor.
I just have a question about, the performance measures. You are saying at least $100,000 in outside funding, is that what you're asking of your rec center directors to raise $100,000? And is it true that you want them 60% goes to their rec center and 40% goes back to you or the city? And how is that working?
No, they don't have a particular goal. They have a goal that's based on the conversations that we have and like their ability. So if we have a newer director, they can't raise the same amount as someone else. So it's not any particular goal. We talk about that. Sometimes they give me a goal that they want to achieve, and we talk about how they're going to get that. So from month to month, it could be $500 in rental income or something like that. We have 3 different splits. What you're describing is the split on rental income. There is a 60% that goes to the center and 40% that goes to the main office, so that we can maintain and keep the operation going for like a lot of the stuff that like we do in the main office. We also have a support fund that we maintain, and then there's 2 other splits as well. So that one's for the rental income.
Can you explain what the main office does, since everything is done in the rec centers?
Not everything is done in the rec center, so, a lot of the systems and processes, every single rental that comes in, all of the money is. Accounted for in our main office, so when it's collected, reconciled and sent to the appropriate, accounts. And so our main office does that, as well as like a lot of the maintenance and planning and using the, online platform, right, that we maintain in the main office for booking and management, et cetera. A lot of the conversations that are beyond the rec center level, if there's any escalated complaints or if there's any service that's needed, maintenance and things like that based on a rental, that all goes to the main office.
How does that cost money? It's personnel time, how is that money? Where's the money, where's the 40% going for?
It goes into our 688 account for the main office.
And I guess the question is, right, I mean, I understand that, and then you use that to do more advertising, marketing.
Oh, yeah, we use that to support a lot of like the supplemental programming that we would do, but there's also something that happens with an individual rec center. You have some centers that are only a gym, and you have some that have like nice large capacities. And I didn't want to create a situation where one director is significantly earning a lot more than another center just based on the fact that you have a larger or better facility at the time. And so that's why the split is higher there as well. So it kind of evens it out there. So we do have centers that get a lot more rentals. And it would create some, disparity or a lot of disparity based on just you having a different building than someone else by either luck or placement.
So you're saying that you kind of use that money that's going to the main office to use a little equity, little balancing, so you give.
Well, we do two things. So prior to this, all of the rental income was just going to the main office, 688 fund. So I changed it and said that when you do a rental now, you're gonna get a portion of that into your individual recreation center fund. So what we use that for is also programming as well. So if you look at some of the things that we do, a lot of this stuff, like our Thanksgiving turkey giveaways and stuff we do for the community, we get donations from that, but we also provide funding from our support fund to do things like that as well.
Yes, Madam Auditor.
Do you collect cash?
No,
Okay, I'm just thinking before, we have not yet gone over does anyone want to talk about the fixed and discretionary?
I just have one last question.
Okay, all right, go ahead. I'm happy, if anyone has any, salary questions, let's go ahead and get them done.
Thank you. I mean, it's very obvious that something needs to happen regarding the director salaries across the board. To make it more just. But my question is, does the director from Zucolo do something else?
Yes.
I think that's what.
yeah, he's also the director of support services, so he has a dual role.
Thank
That's
you.
why it's so high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I remember something of that in the past, so I feel like it wasn't mentioned, yeah.
Thank you for your clarification. I will get you, pro tem, but I think, Councilor Peterson has some.
That's fine.
Thank you. Just to refer back to what you guys said, Councilwoman Brady. My community was very affected by the loss happening, so rather than going and speaking on it, I do want to ask some very clear questions, but this one is just strictly on salary. So I want to start off by saying that I'm very supportive of the work that you're doing to make our recs run. Hands off, 100%. I think it's wonderful. But, and David, please respectfully, this is not personal, but it's just good business. We have a commitment to make sure that we figure out where the money is going for our community members. We're asking them to increase we're proposing, or there is a proposal, I'm not sure there is a proposal, to increase taxes on them, and it's extremely important that we figure out everything for their sake. You started in 2023. You started as an intern, correct? Great. Then you went to director of special projects afterwards, right? And now you're the deputy director. While I absolutely do not think, I believe wholeheartedly that you deserve your position. I'm wondering why at a salary of $109,000 from 2 years ago, where you were considered an intern, there weren't other people within the rec department that could have had because of not only their experience with recs, but their longevity with recs and their knowledge of the neighborhoods and the community as a whole, why they were passed over for this potential opportunity where this particular deputy director has been within 2 to 3 years, not even 3 years, 2 years.
They didn't apply.
Did they know about it?
Yes. And I've actually shared all the positions. I think, and this is not to say that they couldn't or wouldn't be qualified. A lot of them do work 2 jobs. And there are even some folks that would probably be qualified for it that are actually working other jobs that will prevent them from being here at that time. That's some of the feedback that I got. But the applications that I got for the position, I interviewed most of them, right? That like I got, but I didn't, he was the only internal that I actually got for the position.
Sorry, just as a quick follow-up, you were talking about the splits on the different accounts that the Recs have. I'd like a breakdown. You said that there was 2 other splits.
Yeah.
Of the way that Recs run, and I'd love to understand a little bit more. I think that's really important. I don't know if it pertains to right now, but I'm happy to receive that later. The vitality of each rec and what they bring in and how they're expected to fundraise now is really important and part of this larger conversation. So I'd love to be able to receive it.
Yeah, it's a, you want to answer it now?
Sure.
Oh, it's, so there's 3 different categories: rentals, donations, and merchandise. Merchandise doesn't exist yet because we haven't done it, in terms of the sale of it. For donations, if you go out and get a donation, it's a 90-10 split. So 90% to the recreation center, 10% to, the, main 688 fund, and then 70-30 for the merchandise. 70% to the, rec center, 30% to the main.
So just to push back a little bit further, 10% back to the main office wise.
Because when I designed the program, we were doing a lot of work that, like something like this didn't actually exist prior to. We do have like transaction fees for how we like take care of, or how we like get donations and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that we had an amount that's gonna hit our 688 fund, because we're doing this as well to raise money. So all of this is like outside of our general fund, and all of this is to bring more revenue in for programming. So I put in the splits as my decisions to make sure that while we are supporting them, our fund is getting supported for some of the main office things that we do as well. Because if we look at it, we're gonna eventually, as we get ramped up, we're gonna be decreasing the amount that comes to us as time goes on as our main office 688 fund, because the splits are higher for the recreation centers, but we still have to have some funding in there to make sure that we can do recreation live events.
Question interruption. So the cost of the programs, are they coming out of those individual rec departments or, I mean, this rec centers, or are they coming out of the main?
We have a programming expense line item in our general budget. However, if there are things that aren't accounted for, or that recreation centers want to do on their own, or things that we fund, we can use our support fund for that. So we want to make sure that it's in there, just in case there's something that goes on with a difficult budget, that we'll have the money in our support fund to be able to afford those things.
Just to add on that, if I can, so from one of my experiences, so I mean, programming, we have obviously basketball and now soccer, citywide. But if you go to every rec center, it blows my mind on how different sometimes like each programming is. It's really up to directors. So where were we last month?
Davy Lopes.
Davy Lopes. I mean, the director and assistant director there, you know, are running this like citywide skills and drills for girl basketball players. So every rec department has like their own programming that's not citywide. So I mean, it really, if you go to each one, you learn so much on the different programs and services that everyone offers. I think that's where it sometimes kind of gets a little bit confusing in terms of where is the money coming from exactly.
Well, that's a good example. So just to say again, so the rec center is doing a different program than the one that's offered to the well, would they be paying for that program out of their?
Depending on what it is, right? So a lot of times you're gonna look at an individual rec center support fund to pay for things that like generally wouldn't like be approved to our general fund, right? So like if a rec center wants to order equipment for a training program like that, that's not explicitly like funded in our regular program expense. A lot of that goes to the standard programming that we do. But that would allow them to be able to do that, if they chose to. So, for example, one center did a dodgeball program this year, right? And so it wasn't necessarily like planned for us to be able to do that to afford it out of our, fund. So, they asked and filled out the essential spend request, and we were able to approve it because we could use support money for that.
Okay, I'd like to go back to Councilor Peterson. Were you interrupted?
That's okay. So, forgive me, maybe I'm just not understanding, if they're fundraising a specific amount for their rec, they need to then go back and ask you for more funding?
No, they have to ask permission to spend it so that it follows the procurement process.
Okay, so then. If that's the case, I get that portion, I guess. Your budget is pretty substantial, and it looks like you decrease in multiple areas. I continue to ask the question of, is it not essential for them to be able to hold the full amount of their dollars so that they are able to do what they're looking to do? And they have their own autonomy to be able to make the choices for the events, programs and things. Like, I get it. There's some that are gonna be able to do so much more than others, but shouldn't they be able to hold 100%, or at the very least have the access to 100% of their funds? If you guys manage it in a different way, that's a different story, but shouldn't they be able to have 100% of their funding that they've received out of donations from local entities in the neighborhood, or counselors, or whatever it might be?
So the way I designed the program was, I'm looking at like the future, and we've been able to put a lot of money into the support fund. This program wasn't anything that was necessary, like meaning or mandatory, right? So this is a program that I developed, where I put the structure in place to be able to do it, and those are the parameters that I put in place because I wanted to make sure that the main office could still maintain things that we're doing recreation wide. So this is going to be an increase for everybody. And so that's why I put the splits in there, so that while everyone's increasing, we can have money that still goes into the general support fund for the main office to do recreation wide events. So it was just my decision to be able to design the program that way. And that's why I did it.
Right, I want to put on the record, I'm so sorry. I want to put on record that I think 100% of their donated amounts for the specific request for the specific recreation department should go directly to them, because you have tasked your directors and assistant directors with doing something additional to their original job description without perhaps potentially understanding how to, or exactly how that process potentially works. And as a result, certain things have happened in recs where the unknown has caused friction, lack of understanding, potential pushover in certain areas that I think could be developed a little bit more. I don't disagree with them fundraising. I think it's actually a beautiful thing. I think every rec should have the opportunity to. I do think, however, tasking non-fundraising professionals to go out and fundraise and then not having them have 100% of the benefit for it for their recs is almost a disadvantage.
They're not doing it 100% alone, and that's kind of the point of the program, is that they weren't doing this prior to like explicitly going out and doing this. And so when they do this, that's why they have the support of the main office. We actually put in a lot of work to explain the process, show them why it's important, how to do it. On page 46, there's like a whole plan of how they go about doing this process and where they can go to get support. They have one-on-one meetings with myself to be able to talk about that and go through what that process looks like. They have a media content person that can help them create QR codes. They have donation pages that we created. So we put in a lot of work to be able to provide this opportunity, as well as training them, as well as some of the directors that are taking advantages of are doing very well at this program. And so it continues to have the collaboration. I want us to be vested in it as well. And so the splits also contribute to that. Like, we're vested in their success too. And so we're going to do this together. And so I designed the program so that they're split, so that we are invested in their success. And then we can also do the recreation wide program, like I said. So that's kind of where it was designed.
So one last question, just to clarify, you don't have funding for any of these opportunities within your budget?
No, we do. It's just, we have I think it's a complicated question. We have a support fund to be able to supplement or to do things that the recreation centers would want to do that's outside of our normal budget, right? What I did was I created the opportunity for them to have that in an individual account. The accounts existed before, but now they're contributing to it. And so they'll have more autonomy and decision-making power to do whatever they would like with that, within the framework of the procurement system.
With a certain cut coming directly to the department.
Yes. Yeah, because prior to that, it all went into the main account, just the 688.
All right, yes, now.
Hopefully, we can stop doing this in the future from the Parks and Recreation Fund that the city council set up from the CSAs to 5 and 7%. There's over $2 million in that, and hopefully at some point, this council or the future council will be able to use that. And the employees will not have to go out fundraising, because I know you think it's okay. I always get very nervous. I think that you're opening up a can of worms. You're having people go out there, and they're now saying, okay, I work for the city of Providence, would you like to donate money? You don't know that they're not taking cash. I don't know if you have any guardrails in place that say, if you are taking cash, there's a check and balance. That makes me very nervous. Because now you just gave them a platform to collect cash. And if you don't know that they're not collecting cash, they're not gonna tell you they are. I wanna say that for the record.
Yeah, I think that it could happen both ways, like, if I'm not there to see them physically collect cash, right, like, I don't know if that, it could happen, if it happens, then, you know, right, but, the program explicitly says not to collect cash. It explicitly says that, and it's written, and we also created the platforms to be able to not collect cash. And so we have the donation pages, we have QR codes, we have a number of ways that you can do that without the use of cash. And that was one of the points that I emphasized, probably the strongest when I introduced the program.
Yes, I am going to definitely call on you. I'm gonna let you finish your
And you don't
question.
collect cash for candy bars at the rec centers, because I have someone reported that someone has bought candy bars at, Mr. Simon, and in fact, bought a candy bar at the candy center.
Mhm.
So, I'm saying that you collect cash. I'm just telling you what you're, I don't know if it's true or not, I'm just asking again.
Okay. I'm gonna let,
I can respond to that.
yes, I'm gonna let, Mr. Simon.
Getting kind of weird.
Anyways,
I'll be honest with you.
Stand
Kind of weird.
On the fundraising side of things, the recreation advisory, we've got many conversations about this, and in fact. When you look at any recreation department, really across the state, a big part of it is going out, talking to the community. You have local businesses that sponsor teams, they sponsor banners, they help support the recreation department. So we actually, as a recreation advisory board, have been talking about really encouraging the recreation department, encouraging the residents to go out there and do that work. So, I just want to, when we talk about sort of advising the recreation department, obviously they're extremely resource limited. For the amount of work that they do and the type of programming that we want to. And so, part of the thing is that there's community building around that too. When you go out, you raise money, you have business owners, people out of state, you have local recreation departments, and the truth is, I think people want to be, they want to be supportive, they want to be. All that said, I don't think there's any appropriate situation that goes on collecting cash. Obviously, there are protocols and procedures in place that be able to raise and that we have respond. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simon. Okay, yes, Councilor Graves.
When you're doing this, are you telling people that 40% of this is going somewhere else?
Hence the donations.
I mean, 90-10.
Right.
It depends.
No. And my thing is, I think it's wonderful, but a lot of these people are giving money for their particular rec. And I don't know if them not being spoken of, that this should be going on. It needs to say, some ways, are they being told that a portion of this goes to the main to help support citywide recs?
The recreation center directors are told that. If it's not being told to the person that's being donated, it seems like a lot of people have been told, so the word has gotten out there. So I think that it has worked, because a lot of people do know that. But again, This is something that was created for a support fund to generate revenue to make sure that the recreation centers would be able to, in the case that a budget emergency happened, would be able to still provide the services. But the only thing that changed was that you would have access to the individual amounts that are in there based on the program that we created. So I know it sounds like a lot of people don't like the program that's created. I get it. But it's, something that was designed with parameters in place, with the structure, with certain guidelines, explicitly not to collect cash, explicitly not to sell food, explicitly not to do some of those things. And so that we worked for a year and a half to create this program, make sure the accounting measures were correct, work with the controller's office, work with treasury, worked with finance to build all of these, built a whole new accounting system, how we do deposit and reconciliation. So that's where a lot of this work went into. And so we want to make sure that depending on what happens in the future, the individual rec centers will have a great amount for them to be able to support their individual services, and so will the department to be able to do things that require recreational department-wide initiatives.
Yes, we do have to get going on that fixed and discretionary. We had our vital statistics and license.
One last reading.
And I still have my questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so the monies that are given to directly from the council for their particular rec, then that's not that's not happening with that money, right? Say I give 1,000 to my recreation center, that 1,000 stays with that recreation center.
Well, there's different ways so the council is kind of different, because a lot of times you contribute to specific things. This wasn't created for like a council specifically, this was created for community engagement. So like, there's been, like, you actually donated something specifically to Rogers and it went to Rogers for that particular purpose. So that's a little bit different.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that. Fortan, did you have a question?
I do have several questions. Some of them have been answered already, but probably won't go in as in order, but I will ask, this is for the finance. Do other departments raise money for programs at all?
Not that I'm
Not aware of.
aware of. I do know that like the Parks Department does have special revenue funds where they charge for services or do special events. I do know that I want to say the animal control has a fund that receives donations.
Didn't the chief talk about
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, there are.
So is that within employees or as a department?
So it depends on the individual department. I know that ACT is using a fiduciary third party to help raise funds. That's First Works. So they are responsible as a nonprofit to collect and receive all of those funds.
Yeah.
And I think they coordinate with First Works and the community on behalf of entire PVD Fest, not necessarily the city of Providence. As far as the animal control donations, I think those are
So
not necessarily solicited per se.
yeah, so employees are not out there asking for or fundraising. That's my,
With the exception of PVD Fest, I'm not aware of like an active fundraising.
Yeah.
by city.
and would do employees of the city, do they still have to adhere to the code of ethics in terms of receiving,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So, and this just came up in a sense as the chair of the advisory committee mentioned in a sense. I think that, and I've watched obviously sometimes some of the meetings and so forth, great suggestion. The advisory committee providing very value to the rec center. I just think that now the rec center is giving it's in the business of raising money and putting employees in a potential difficult situation. And I personally, I don't think that it should be happening. While the intent is positive and it has value and so forth, I think that advisories or boards can take on that responsibility and raise their money on their own, sort of them asking money for the rec department and not so much having employees raise money and going out there, whether they're items or checks. Because I think that now you're in the business of not only providing rec services and those things, versus focusing on the kids, focusing on the rec. So that's my recommendation on that. And it's not for the director to answer that, but I just think that as a city, it's a direction that it shouldn't, while it was a tremendous suggestion, but I just think that we're putting employees in a difficult position. The question I have in terms of employees and going into just more deputy director and so forth. I'm sure that it was answered in a sense, it was advertised for the deputy director, correct? Was there an atmosphere in a sense that position is going to be given anyways, so people didn't feel in essence that they shouldn't have applied?
Actually, the interview process included 3 recreation directors that interviewed every single candidate for the job, and they unanimously chose the deputy director.
Yeah. Were there any other from the other departments or the administration being able to at least be part of that selection process? It was internal?
It was internal. So it was myself and 3 of my recreation directors that are currently directors.
Right.
Yeah.
And they worked with him with Oyemen for the 2 years as an intern.
They had worked with
Okay.
yeah.
Great, thank you. Question, in reference to the special media content and special projects, was that the same process? And is that also part of like the outreach? What is the special projects?
So we have.
And was it the same process in terms of hiring the media content and special projects, or is that in an internal candidate too?
That actually was an internal candidate that was promoted from a temporary salary position, who applied for the role and was awarded the role. That position actually consolidated 2 other positions. So we used to have a separate media content person and a separate special projects. And because we did a lot of the infrastructure already and put a lot of things in place, created the media pages, created the website, created all the things that the media content person was doing, we had the ability to have this person like maintain it. And some of the special projects that we're going to be doing, if you look at upcoming programs, there's a lot of stuff that's not really considered like traditional recreation activities that we're doing, and that would be considered special. We have a business builders program that we're doing this summer. That's a camp, that'll be our 12th camp, specifically for middle school age students that are going to learn accounting principles. The reason that we haven't really gone out to market with some of that merchandise stuff is because they're going to build those stores and they're going to learn the accounting principles of how to do that. And they're going to create them for each of the centers. We put a lot of work into this, like 2 years of hard work to follow every single accounting principle, build all the reports, do everything that we could to make sure that we provided every single center the opportunity to not only bring in donation and revenue for themselves in their own programming, but then teach them how to manage that as well. And so we did a lot of work on that the last 2 years. And so the last step of this is going to be able to teach kids how to do that and then present at the end. We're going to have our functioning stores. We're going to be doing our recreation food pantry, right? That's not really considered. So that would be considered like a special project. How do we design that? How do we get that done? Right? How do we register people for it? So we have a lot of things that we're doing. You know, our high school fall ball, not in our budget, right? The newsletter that we're going to be doing, kind of a special project, kind of combined with the media, the community engagement task force, and what it's going to take to be able to do that. So it's like a little bit of investment, like these things weren't traditional.
So other things that you assigned. And thank you for that clarification. Now, Madam Chair, the director of the Elmo Community Center, just like everyone here, that is as you know, it's in the ward that I represent, and well, I'm not pleased in the sense of how that has been going in terms of the construction and the delay and so forth. We hired the director, or at least a director for the Elmo Community Center last year, right? It's
Yeah.
already a year,
Mhm.
and we haven't been able to operate there yet.
Right.
And so essentially, she's been doing other things besides being a director at the Elmo Community Center, besides just from what that I can recall, just 2 sessions of community gathering and session under the CPF grant. Is that correct there?
Are you
Just
asking
only
if
2?
that's what that happened at that building?
Right. Yeah, in
Uh,
terms of doing the functions of a director at the Elmwood Community Center.
It's not just a director of a building, it's a director of a concept for our community engagement for the entire department.
So I would recommend in essence, because we approved it as a budget. We hired someone for the director of the Elmo Community Center, and you listed here as director of Elmo Community Center. I would suggest that you just change that title in your organization chart. And lastly, granted that we as a community, based on the past 8 months, 9 months, the Elmo Community Center, the way has been designed under the CPF grant and so forth. We as a community, and this is what the feedback that I'm getting also, and I've gotten, and I've try to have a conversation with you in essence, that we're going away from establishing a community center in my district in Ward 9. And it's more illustrated now because in your organizational chart, you have all the community centers all the community centers, the rec centers under your organization chart, and the Elmo Community Center is not part of it. Correct?
It's
I
in the
mean,
org chart,
and
but-
so it's not, unless
Page, center is
right, and that's why I say that in essence, but it's no longer there. And so, as we continue to look at how this is developing, and I get it, that, we received we put in ARPA money and CPF grant money. The director of the Elmo Community Center has not been able to do their function at that location because of the fact of structural problems and more so. And so I'm stating in essence that as we state that we're not happy with our own situation sometimes in the Elmo Community Center, people complaining regarding the lack of use. Granted, we're using technology, it's just the accessibility, it's not there. So the last question I ask is, under is this position or any other positions supplemented by the CPF grant at all? So is there any there's no money for personnel under the CPF grants? It just was.
Yeah, it's all building improvements into that CPF grant.
There's only one opportunity that there may be that the state is gonna decide if they give programming money, but we don't decide.
Okay, so is there a particular budget for the Elmo Community Center? Is also, the last question, the director, does she have a goal also to raise money there too?
It hasn't been open, but what she does have her own individual account, and so we thought about that going forward. Because of the timing of the Elmo Community Center and when it will open based on factors that are out of our control. A lot of what we've been discussing, why it's important to have a support fund is for situations like that. So that if we are working with organizations, and the reason that, just to answer your other question, the reason that it's different in terms of not a recreation center, it still says community center, is because it's gonna be treated that way for a lot of the time, which is a different role and responsibility. But if we don't have anything for the expansion of programming, which is what that building was really designed through the Department of Recreation to do, increase our collaborations, community engagement, collaboration with community-based organizations.
Understand
So
that.
we'll be able to use
Yeah.
support fund money to be able to fund programming if it's not in our budget.
What would you estimate that fund, what that budget is gonna look like?
That really depends on the partnerships that we're able to get through the programming that we have, so I haven't really dug into that particular portion of it yet. Because everything that we try to do, we try to be as efficient as possible and rely on the partnerships that we have. So that's really what we're doing now. So what the director is doing right now is building a catalog of the community-based organizations, businesses, et cetera, that can be utilized in that particular building to provide services, particularly first for health, education, and workforce development. But she's also doing that for each recreation center as well. So we're building that citywide, not just for the LMU.
Thank you. Are there any other, Madam Chair, any, under the CPF grant, are there any other consultants or other ad hoc employees that can be hired or are in this work that's
From the
being
city?
performed under the grant?
Well, it's managed by a few departments, so it's managed by policy, recreation. We have a number of city personnel that are working on the CPF grants, and Cecily's particular portion on that through the Elm Community Center is not just for the Elm Community Center. She's doing the community engagement for Davy, Loach, Jocelyn, and the ECC.
And there's no other consultants or anything like that?
No.
Okay,
It's just architects and contractors, et cetera.
thank you, that's all.
And discretionary costs.
Yeah, at least I, thank you. I want to make sure that, one, that got my answers to those questions, but also, to share with this committee that in essence, the Elmo Community Center in that area, even with the rec center, not having a clear, indication at the Sackett Street, because that's a shared, building with the school. And to this point, no one knows what kind of relationship people have within the PPSD property and the rec center. So, you know, it's level of frustration and we need to clarify it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yeah,
Councilor Everbog and then Councilor Sanchez.
And maybe also is a segue into the say operational discretionary costs, but I just want to say, Director, I am really grateful for, it sounds like in designing, well, one, I'm gonna be grateful for you in a second. This whole conversation is right here. I'm grateful for you this whole time, but I'll get to why I'm saying. This is gonna sound silly, but this is reminding me of this bumper sticker that I used to have. It was like, it'll be a good day when the military needs to do fundraisers and Parks and Rec has as much money as they need. And that is, I feel like what's happening here. It sounds like you've done a tremendous amount of work to put in whatever operational and finance structures you need to make sure this is being done in a above board way. And while I, deep in my heart, wish that didn't need to fundraise, because we should just be funding recreation at a level that it's necessary, and I would love to figure out how we do that in a future budget, because this is vital work in our communities, and I know from Vincent Brown and the kids who go there and the parents, that it's just incredibly vital work. So I just wanted to be grateful to you for designing this. I think there's some mixed feelings among, it sounds like, my colleagues, but to respectfully disagree, I think you're doing a really great job, and I've worked at many nonprofits where people share across and some goes to a central fund because there's things that happen in a central office. And so I'm totally comfortable with that. And it sounds like you've put in a lot of operational controls to make sure that this is 100% above board. And I really appreciate how far you've come to do that, especially given like there's so little money for all of the great expenses and the things that you guys do in the racks. And so that's my segue to the fixed and discretionary costs. I wish we had more money for all those things.
Yeah, and I was gonna share same sentiment. I think, you know, asking questions is, you know, very valid, and that's part of us as city councilors. But something that hasn't been talked about during the conversations, which is really annoying to me, is that who does this benefit? And that's the youth of our city. I think the rec department, no matter who's in charge, no matter who is leading each rec center, I think is the most important vital department that is so valuable to our city. I hear on a weekly, monthly basis. I mean, we see the struggles that majority of our kids are facing in our public schools, and one, positive light, for a lot of those kids is our rec center. It's those relationships, those, programming, those experiences that they do get to, value. So I think, it's important to ask, and critique maybe some of the processes and protocols. Every dollar extra that a rec center, gets, is so important. And I think, like I've shared it in all of our meetings, the people that work in these departments and lead, these rec centers are literally saving lives. So, I, personally would like to cut, public safety and have more money. I don't know, that's such a popular opinion, between my colleagues and the mayor's office, but I mean, I think we need to emphasize and keep our, mindset and experiences around who benefits the most, and that's the youth of our city.
Could I offer a point of disclaimer? Because I actually was thinking about this while we were talking. I just want to say for the record, I didn't invent recreation except in money. Right, so like,
Oh, yeah.
we've always had rentals, we've always had permitting, we've always had things that like rec centers collected money for. What I did was I just improved the capacity to do it and organize it a little bit more. And so that's really like what I did. They always had money coming in. It's just I created more ways to do it and a better accounting system and tracking for it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to.
Sorry. No.
What?
No. Can we go over the, because I too am concerned about the cut. So can we just please go over the fixed and discretionary costs?
Certainly, yes. So
Build it in
turn to
there.
Slide 5 of the PowerPoint presentation. The first line item in this budget that's considered discretionary is program expense. It's been budgeted at $138,500 in fiscal year 2026. And this is a reduction of $16,500. This is providing funding for seasonal programs, field trips, tournaments, and awards that are not and are supplemented at Director's point by the support fund. And I will just say, again, as someone who's worked directly with both Director Grace and Deputy Director, they've put a tremendous amount of work into this. And while it's still in its inception and certainly is subject to critique and change going forward, I really want to commend them for thinking outside the box. I can tell you that Director Grace, when he started, acknowledged this was a tough budget year, came in my office and didn't just do what a lot of folks would do, which is like whatever the heck he wants, and then all this money arrives and we're like, oh, what happened? How did this happen? He came to the finance office, he came to the controller, he had several meetings. Again, just last week, I had cheat sheets for them on how they need to report revenue so that it goes in the right spot, and expenses, so they go in the right spot. And so, I do just want to acknowledge that this was not a whim, and this was not a brand new thing. It was taking an existing practice and trying to create some policies and procedures around it that would adhere to the financial controls that the city would like to see. And so if there's any way I can assist in changing this process or working with this team, I will gladly do that. But I do think that it's worth commending that effort, because not every director is walking into my office saying, I want to think creatively of how to fund more items in my department, and how can you help me do that? And so again, that's just something that is worth mentioning. Their fixed cost is rubbish removal, which is certainly a necessity in a recreation center. There's a modest increase for this line item of $700. So they can continue services into fiscal year 2026. And there's a little typo. Oh, I'm sorry, no, that's not. Under the supplies category, we have medical and chemical lab supplies budgeted $75,000. This is a reduction of $25,000. It is funding for the pool chemicals and is supported based on last year's actual spend. So that reduction was in line with again, spending trends. Stationery has also been reduced to $6,000. Miscellaneous expenses are funds for any sort of special events or sports equipment that will occur throughout the year. Those are budgeted at $18,000. Food is budgeted at $25,000, and this is food for cookouts, holiday events, and special events. Housekeeping supplies, which I think are fairly self-explanatory, are budgeted at $23,000, which is level funded from fiscal year 2025. And maintenance and services budgeted at $75,000, and this is for any sort of maintenance or repairs in the rec centers that are not included in public properties budget or funded by ARPA and or CPF grant.
Okay, seasonal programs up top. I'm sorry, did you say that was going to be funded some other way, the 16.5 reduction?
So, it's going to be funded in some parts by the, support fund. But if you look at the historical spend, let me just see if I can find it. Program expense. The budget in fiscal year 2025 was 155,000. The actual spend in fiscal year 2024 was 86,000. So a budget of 138,500, while a reduction of $16,000 is significantly more than the actual spend in 24 or 23, or the year-to-date spend in 20.
The other question I have is, I'm particularly looking at the food, the food and the miscellaneous expenses, for special events, sports equipment. Why is that reduced? Those two items in particular, the 8 and the 14.
Yeah, again, it's really just based on historical trend and spend. So we can see that miscellaneous expenses were actuals in fiscal year 2024 were about 17,000. So $18,000 did seem like a reasonable budget based on those actuals. And if we look at food, the actual expense in fiscal year 2024 was $23,000, which was the most accurate information at the time the budget was proposed. So a budget of $23,000, I'm sorry, $25,000 was a reasonable adjustment based on that historical spending.
Okay, so is it correct to say that all these are actually based on actuals from the prior year?
Yes, certainly. I would say in general, most of the reductions in service or supply line items were by departments initially because they felt they could live within those means. And then again, were further reduced when we went through and looked at trends and historical spend and looked and said, okay, well, historically, you've always had 5,000 for this, but you've spent 2, maybe you could really live with 2. And so that's how a lot of these cuts were.
Okay, are there any questions on expenses? Well, yes, Councilor Bears.
I think that's a good idea, but everything's going up, so we're going by what was good, last year, the year before that. I mean, food is up sky high. I don't know if we should cut where all those where those items are in play, because
I think
things have changed.
I think the council helped out significantly, by the way, with the food portion of it. If you remember, we made a decision to kind of combine some of the neighborhood parties, which actually helped us out significantly in what we spend on food. So just with like 3 or 4 collaborations, we were able to reduce that cost and kind of get it into a combined party. So that's where we saw a little bit of price savings as well.
Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
But I also want to highlight, and you know, I think this is somewhere where the council, obviously was the proposal in front of us, the mayor's office. And you know, that's their proposal. I think this is somewhere where council can make a distinct, you know, separation from the mayor's office in terms of what our priority is in terms of, our amendments.
Oh, yes. Yes, I really am trying to, yes, Councilor Peterman.
Can you tell me what the partnership with Providence Parks does for the rec department?
Yeah, so they actually are a really good partner. So they primarily work with us in the summer. And so they provide a lot of the clubs, activities, and events that we have during our summer camps and during our summer celebrations. And then we actually have somebody similar to, I think, what Parks mentioned, somebody on our staff that helps us manage that throughout the year as well. That is paid through our 602 fund. And so what they do is they will contract with organizations in the city to be able to provide services for the recreation centers. And that was the program that you heard Wendy talk about how she started that. And she started for Parks and Recreation to be able to do that. So P3's been around for a while to be able to do that.
Sorry, just to follow up, do they invoice you for services?
I didn't hear.
Do they invoice you for services?
Yes.
So what would that be, or is it done by, rec, how does that work?
So if they perform a service and it's something that we're supposed to pay them for, they follow the procurement process to be able to do that. So it goes to our main office and then we will pay them for services needed.
And is that divided per rec, or is that just a standard standalone payment for the entire department?
It's not like a blanket sometimes, so it can be individual rec because there may be something that happens at one rec center that doesn't happen at the other. Based on like the building size or campus, et cetera, so. And they don't always do the same program for every recreation activity as well. So there may be like poetry or something happening at one rec center and then another that may not happen, but it'll be a different version of that, so it can always be different.
And last question, is do they fundraise for the rest?
They have so they do like 401 gives, for example. So like we can't participate in that as a city. But since they're a 501c3, they can participate in 401 gives, for example. And so that's how they would fundraise for the recreation plan.
And that money goes directly to each rec?
So it really depends. So what they do is they speak with the actual director. So if they do so each rec center had like a 401 gives through P3. And so then they can kind of choose what they would want to spend it on. So then they would go to P3. And a lot of times in this particular scenario, they'll actually purchase it themselves, if that makes sense. So like if so let's say somebody wanted a bicycle and there was $500 given to 401 gives, that doesn't necessarily cycle through our department. It could be purchased directly by P3 because they have the ability to do so, and then they would give the bike to the rec center.
Yeah, there also there's a lot of grant writing for particular things, so.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff comes from directly from, they do our community garden with the rec and everything else, they do a lot.
Oh, yeah, we were just at Rogers for that with Schneider Electric, P3, and who else was it? And City Gear, yeah.
Yes.
So like we'll collaborate on things like that, beautification, et cetera.
I think that a couple of things. One is that obviously I think we all are very focused on trying to provide the services with our population and our kids. If you were to ask us additional money on this budget, where would you put it and how much?
Honestly,
Have you thought about
honestly, I would just be level funded. That would honestly like be the ask. Just be level funded. If I were to wave a magic wand, that would be.
But is it for staff or operations in terms of servicing more service for the kids? Because my understanding is that we're servicing less kids due to the reduction of ARPA money and so forth. So every rec center, even for summer programs, have seen reduction on kids services, providing services. Is that correct?
No.
So can you expand on that? I mean.
Yeah, so the plan, so when we're thinking about like what comes, like the uncertainty of a budget, right? So when we plan programs, we'll typically do like what we've been budgeted for in the past.
Yeah.
In prior years, we had like ARPA funding that we were able to just kind of do a lot more with, and we don't have that anymore.
Right.
So any increase that we saw in the last couple of years was due to ARPA funding that was going into our seasonal account, and we were able to expand and kind of do more. And this is why, looking at that, we kind of created an expectation where we're gonna have certain programming and events and things in the rec center, so that's kind of not to beat that, point again, just like where the fundraising comes in to be able to supplement that, but if it were to be my ask, just to answer the question, it would just kind of be level funded and be able to work with it.
And that's why I ask in the sense of level funding, but it's also about increasing personnel. And the last comment that I would just say, in essence, we all understand that every department is critical for the city of Providence, and we're going through the financial hardship. While some community centers and rec centers are located throughout the city, proportionally, and at least as I visited different rec centers, but we know that some communities are much wealthier in terms of resources and people. When you look at when you describe the formula of 90-10 and 70-30, understand that in certain communities traditionally, and I see it now, I can, without having any data, is that some other communities do suffer from the fundraising, the resources, and even as having the longevity and the historic services in the community. I just want to point out that in the past 5 years, let's say, 5 years, the Elmwood area, because Davy Lopes has, on the south side, Washington Park has a community center. In the Elmwood area, the community has been deprived of a community center. And due to the fact that, and the rec center to a certain extent has also been up and down, but due to the fact that the resources are not there, and I say to my colleagues and to the director, that community center should remain a community center, not just as has been continuously articulated by you and put it on paper, but we as a community continue to see a path. I see a path that we're going to be losing a community center that is for the community at large, in that center there. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Just for like clarity for this gentleman, why does the rec department have a community center under its umbrella? Like, what's the difference between, I guess I'm just trying to like figure out like why, like I get what my colleague is saying about his community center, but like why, I'm not sure. Okay, so because every other rec department that's in your org chart is a rec department, like, I guess, how does the community center play a role in?
No. The director has the answer.
I can tell you from my perspective, like kind of how it happened. We know that there was some money that was invested in that project during phase one, and it essentially ran out of money, right? And so at the time, when I first presented to you guys, I kind of talked about more of a child, youth, and family model and kind of expanding that and the community engagement, et cetera. And so I looked at a community center as the way to be able to do that. So when the opportunity came to be able to manage that building, so to speak, I thought it perfectly aligned as a community center with the vision we had for some of the alternative services that we were going to do. And then we happened to apply for a grant where we were able to get the money to be able to fund the phase two to be able to complete that. And so that's kind of where it happened from my perspective, to be able to, contribute to the building, finish the phase two. It went along with our kind of vision for alternative services, child, youth, and family model, community engagement, et cetera. So that's.
Keith, do you have something to add?
I wanted to say that where consideration was given for building availability, and where the need and the services could be combined without interfering with one another. Over time, that's when they became jointly housed in the same.
Okay.
So just the last like follow up on this. So this building would be what if it wasn't under you? What would this current state of it be if this rec department didn't take this?
I mean, I'm not gonna say that like I came in and I saved the building, but like I did it, but like it would have been abandoned, I think, right? Because it was already
It
vacant.
would have been under public property like any other unused, it'd been a Carl Oro situation, right? All right.
We would have, as a community and as if I may, since I would like to just also put a period on this one. There's a continuous dialogue on the development of this and there's history on that. I think that we as a community and we as a general body would have found a way to figure out that continuously improve the services in a community center. Agreed in essence that these services, to the fact that he described, is very important, but at the same time is to emphasize that through the fact that the infrastructure and the money that we've invested through ARPA and through even the previous administration, that now it's been continuously complicated. That's all.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Director, thank you, and Deputy Director. I will say that you, when you first came, you had a big job in front of you. And I'm gonna say, I'm very impressed with the amount of, you have been set up a very professional organization. I appreciate all your efforts to make sure you're compliant with our procurement strategies. This was not an easy job. You had a lot of, you inherited a dysfunctional department, is all I'm going to say. So I am very, very impressed with what you have been able to achieve. And thank you very much. Okay, we're gonna go on to for Mr. Acting Director, who's been sitting back there with a smile on the other. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you just want to do both of them? Do you want to have both packets out at one time? Yeah, let's do that. And then
It's gonna go really fast.
Yeah, I can do my best. Yeah.
All right, and thank you so much for waiting. You, I had some prizes to hand out. You. Unfortunately, I don't. The next time we'll bring it here. Yeah, sometimes.
You keep saying that.
I brought this. That's for sure.
We keep talking about the meal, I'm the community.
Yeah, oh, I don't have that money with that. No, not sorry. Oh, all right.
Thanks, take care.
All right, let's, have, to watch the.
I think it's 21 according to.
Yeah, it's 21. Is it 21, Donna?
We are going to be 22, sorry.
23, so I'm gonna have,
Yeah. Take care.
we're gonna have the Bureau licenses marked as exhibit 20. And then we are going to mark the vital statistics as 23. I'm sorry, whose cell is that?
It's about to go on.
Did you stop it?
I think it's statistics.
This is not my cell.
Okay.
Could you stop it? I think it's booked all there.
Yeah. The Bible continues.
I got.
Make the motion.
I'll get one. All right, so we have a motion.
I moved.
Thank you. I have a second. I got one.
Want to do that in just a second?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Annabelle, just marked these as exhibit 22 and licenses of 22, vital statistics.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm going to start with the bureau licenses. Their budget is on page 165 of your budget book, and I'm joined today by acting director. Jose Juicy. Did I get it right? Okay, good. I didn't want to, poor David, his last name was really hard. I didn't want to get that.
after he's been waiting.
Yes, I know. He's a trooper. Okay, let's see. The revenue generating department, if you turn to slide 2, we actually have the revenue broken into 2 different slides because there are quite a variety of them. They are generated from licensing fees that are administered by this department. And all projected revenues do include the, or do assume that the amended fines and fees ordinances are passed, and so that revenue is included in these totals. All right, if you continue on to page C, you'll see that those total revenues are budgeted at $1,783,125. And information on the historical actuals and 25 budget can be found in the budget. If I continue on, total expenditures in fiscal year 2026 are proposed at $1,089,104. This represents a 2.64% decrease or $29,487 from the fiscal year 2025 budget of $1,118,591. When we're reviewing salaries in this budget, as I had mentioned in the economic development budget, there is a request to amend the final appropriation ordinance so that we can reclassify some salaries from the licensing department to the vital statistics department. So if we start with fiscal year 2025 salaries, they were budgeted at $619,138. In fiscal 2026, included in the proposed budget are cost of living increases at $12,660. Step increases for $8,714. Additionally, a senior licensed board clerk position that was vacant has been defunded, and that salary was $55,458. For the proposed budget salaries of $585,054. As I had mentioned earlier, we would like to request to transfer some of the salary associated with the deputy license administrator to the vital statistics budget, which would result in a reduction of $79,680 for a total adjusted proposed salary of $505,374. This department does not have a tremendous amount of line items, but we have broken them into fixed and discretionary costs.
The first is fees not classified, that is parking for city, eligible city staff as well as stenographer services for the licensing board hearings. Postage has been budgeted at $3,550 and is fairly self-explanatory.
That's all.
Advertising and marketing is budgeted at $85,000, and these are required advertisements in the Providence Journal for any sort of license board hearings or other licensing related matters. Printing has been budgeted at $6,000. Professional development has been level funded at $2,500, and legal expenses are $35,000, and that is for board representation. Machinery and equipment is budgeted at $3,750. It's a $750 reduction, and this covers any sort of noise meter maintenance, like where there's an annual cost associated with maintaining those machines. Office supplies have been budgeted at $1,500. It's a reduction of $1,000, and of course, those expenditures have been transferred to the vital statistics budget that previously had no service or supply line items in fiscal 2025. Repairs to office equipment is $800 and is there for any sort of minor repairs that happen throughout the fiscal year for the various equipment needed in the licensing department. And they do have a copy release at $4,000 annually.
Okay. Yes, Counselor Sanchez.
Thank you, Director, Jose, you take first name. So much, for the work that you do, for being here so late. First question, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead right now, but, the acting city register, who is that?
So technically, right now, at this point in time, Stephanie Lowe is acting as the city registrar. We're required to have a person on file with the state of Rhode Island as the city's registrar of record. And Ms. Lopes is filling that title as of now, but she's not receiving the compensation for that position. She's only receiving the compensation for the position in economic development with a mayoral stipend, so that her salary is commensurate with what it was at while she was the licensing administrator.
So she's not performing the duties, the day-to-day duties and responsibilities of the city. That's
correct, yeah.
Alright. I'm just gonna voice my opinion, in terms of like moves like this, during budget seasons of reorganization. Obviously, that's the full authority and responsibility of the mayor's office. But it really kind of just throws us off guard. In terms of these meetings, and I know it's late at night, so I don't think we're gonna spend too much time, so I'm definitely gonna sit with this proposed. Was anyone else aware before today?
Nope.
No, right, okay, just making sure. That I didn't miss it, but yeah, that's just my opinion on this. Right now.
I will say that the one-stop center was discussed in the budget briefings. It was not, there was no dollar value associated with it. And in fact, after we did the final reconciliation, it actually results in a small savings in salaries. So I believe that's probably part of the reason why it may have kind of slipped under the radar, but I do recall seeing it in several of the press briefings and information on the proposed budget is presented.
Counselor Graves.
I see the two vacancies are for the second shift. For the license inspector. Seems like that would be the licenses and all that stuff, that would probably be the place where you really need someone, you know. Are you actively looking for somebody? Is there somebody in the side? Okay.
Yeah, actually, that position, I just actually, one of them out of the two for the second shift, which runs Tuesday to Saturday, 3 to 11 p.m. I actually just offered the position to someone.
Okay. Okay, and I had another question that went.
And what is happening with the second vacancy?
I'm sorry.
The second vacancy?
Oh, the second vacancy,
Yes.
so we funded that, I think last fiscal year, but we haven't done anything with that. We've just kind of been sitting on it until, I mean, the problem is that people switch jobs, they put in for other jobs, but for this vacant position, we kind of put that as a placeholder, because ideally we would, the city's relatively big for one second shift inspector, so we do that. Two would help, especially with the efforts on noise mitigation and workforce.
You're telling me that it's been vacant for a year?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Enforcement is the name of the game for nighttime entertainment. In my opinion, we have so many issues in the city. And if we don't have any, if we don't have adequate inspectors, we are gonna be behind so I think this is, not to blame you, but I'm just gonna say, I think this is totally unacceptable. Yes, Counselor Vanderbilt, did you? I don't know if you have.
That was my question. It was ready to go.
Okay.
Staying on the subject, is it because of the, salary? Is that where you're getting feedback from?
For the vacant position, no, we don't even have a job description created for that
Oh, okay.
position.
I'm gonna need a report back on this, because that's just unacceptable. I need a report back on why this has been vacant. For that long, and why it's not even a job description or posted. I'd like to know exactly what's going on with that second position.
I will say that this is a local 1033 position, so the specific job description would be consistent for the second shift license.
Right.
But then I'd like to know why it's not been built. Thank you.
We can look into that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Counselor Flynn.
Just to quickly follow up on that, are these positions part of the hiring freeze?
No.
I am not, but I don't also approve positions when they're getting posted, so I would not be the right person to ask, but I can find out.
I saw you should,
Yes, Counselor Graves.
I'm sorry, you were shaking your head,
I think that's part of the reason, that we ran into. There's obviously some personnel issues that I'm not at liberty to discuss, with the previous incident. So that kind of set us back a little bit, and then we ran into the higher.
That explains some of the year. Thank you very much, but I'd still like more detail on it. Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments? I'm sorry, for Jen.
Thank you. And thank you, I had those questions too. In terms of, under this proposal, Jose Agustin is acting, is this part of the proposal of offering from acting to the actual? Or is that gonna be open to other people?
I am not aware at this time what the plan is for like whether or not Jose will remain in the position permanently. That would be at the direction of Jose reports up to who's hiring this position.
And who would that be?
Chief Hawkins.
Chief Hawkins? Okay. And for how long has the acting, Gusti has been acting so far?
2016-2024.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that will be an answer that I would love to hear.
I am going to, I'm so sorry to do this. I mean, I would like to have someone, chief operating officer, discuss what's going on with this department. So I'm gonna ask that, we continue this particular department. So we can, I don't know where we'll put it, but I just would put somewhere with what's going on here. If that's okay, well, I mean, I don't know if we have to, I'm just saying it on the record because it's part of our discussion. I'm just saying this particular department will not be finished until we do more. Does that make sense to everyone? So we might want to, continue our questions or the later date. Yes.
I just want to thank you for that, because you've been actually really wonderful to work with, and I had a really great conversation about certain things that were ongoing in my neighborhood, and you have been extremely supportive, not only to me, but that have specifically called.
and mentioned you wanted you supported them in that way, so I really want to thank you, for the work that you're doing in your role, at the Senate. But we will do budget statistics, I think, right? And so, I've always been that. Okay, you get to go. I'm just thinking, since we have vital statistics, can we run through that?
Yes, certainly. The vital statistics information can be found on, page 278. This is the revenue generating department, is generated from the sale of certified records. Fiscal year 2026 budget is going to be at $162,500, which is a slight decrease from the 2025 budget of $212,500. And it's really been supported by the trend. Actual revenue for certified copies, which is their largest revenue generator, was about $150,000 and has been steadily declining year over year. It's my understanding that there's actually been a change at the state level of how these are issued, and it's resulted in a significantly less foot traffic coming into City Hall requesting copies. When we look at total expenditures in fiscal 2026, they're proposed at $362,718. This is an 8.11% increase over the fiscal 2025 budget of $335,511. Total salaries in this budget department were budgeted in fiscal 2025 at $204,448. In fiscal 2025, the proposed budget includes adjustments for cost of living increases for $4,772, step increases for $3,228, for total proposed salaries of $212,448. As I mentioned in the licensing department budget, there will be a request to transfer the funding for the Deputy Director of Licensing to the City Registrar of Vital Statistics. The salary associated with that position is $71,477. So there's approximately $8,000 in salary savings between that adjustment. And finance. When we look at fixed and discretionary costs in this line item, in fiscal year 2025, we had because the departments were housed in the same physical location, the service and supply line items were moved out of the vital statistics budget and into the licensing department budget. And so in 2026, we're essentially just moving those expenditures back. So all of these will look like increases, but it really has to do with the functionality of moving them into separate offices. In fiscal 25, we had come to the conclusion that because they were in one space, it was really, really hard to differentiate like who was buying this pencil versus that pencil and that copier versus this one. But if these departments are in separate spaces, they will need separate budget authority for things like office supplies and the minimus things that they remember. So postage is one of their largest line items. It's at $1,000. Dues and subscriptions are budgeted at $150, and that's the Rhode Island Town and City Clerks Association. Their stationery is where they do budget for their office supplies. It's budgeted at $1,500. Repairs to office equipment is $2,500, and that's book binding. That's required mostly annually to maintain those records. And there is a copier and lease maintenance cost of $3,000 associated.
Sorry, in terms of the org chart, so we have Stephanie and Derek top of this third. City Registrar. So I'm a little. She is
She's acting as a city registrar, but she also fills the role of the city's small business and development coordinator. The registrar, from what I understand, and please check me if I'm wrong, is a certification that the city is required to have at the state level. Somebody's name needs to physically be on all of those certificates. And at this point in time, while Jose is in an acting capacity, that title has stayed with Stephanie Lopes, who was the city registrar and licensing administrator prior to her transition to the government.
but Mr. Juicy is actually doing the work.
Yes.
Technically, I mean, I know that I understand trying to meet that we have to meet the requirements. But I'm just saying that Ms. Lopes is no longer in that physical space. She's no longer doing the day-to-day. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm not upstairs.
And that you are doing it. The day.
Yes.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, if I may, part of that is my understanding that the registrar for the home rule charter has to be sworn in.
Yeah.
So because I'm in an acting capacity, well, with the one-stop business center in play and being announced, there's obviously some changes coming, so the job description may or may not change for the licensed administrator. So I think that's part of the reason for the holdup on everything. It's just kind of like what's gonna happen with the move to the one-stop business center, which, we have it that September 1st of this year. So I believe that that's part of the reason why everything's kind of like not set in place just yet.
Okay, that's reasonable. I appreciate that explanation. But what happens with you? I mean, you didn't move to this position. What was your title before when Stephanie was here?
When Stephanie was here and since August of 2021, I was deputy director of licensing and environment.
All right. Any other questions, comments at this point?
Just a comment, I definitely just want to show the public gratitude to Jose for all the work that he's done. Not only in licensing, but even in biostatistics. I had a lot of folks that interact with his department on a day-to-day basis and getting said documents. I have clients that lose their birth certificate every other week, and the patience and compassion that all the clerks show, and flexibility. Sometimes folks don't have the proper ID, but they have a picture of it, definitely goes a long way and definitely deserves a lot of recognition and gratitude. And obviously that starts at the top, so thank you.
Likewise.
Yes. Councilor Gray.
Not one suggestion, because it seems like you're alluding to something that you can't talk about. Are we gonna be able to go into closed session so you can find out exactly what it is?
Well, no, we're gonna call in the COO and talk about exactly why this, how this whole decision was made, and it won't have to be it's not gonna have to be in closed session, it's just basically asking more questions about this reorganization and the hiring of the minors and why it has gone down the way it is. So it doesn't have to be in closed session, but we will have it in it. But we can have answers to our questions. I'm asking if the chief Hawkins can come in. And we'll probably work that in for us there, yes, so we can ask. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And I too would like to thank you, because I've been out of the office, not often, but it is absolutely a main place. And really the clerks do, everyone goes under to accommodate and serve our residents, so I'm grateful. Okay, so with that, we have a motion to continue. Through 5. Great, second by Kansas, all in favor? Yeah.
So moved.
Councilor Gray, second by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
so
you.
much.
It's still special thing.
Let's see the guy there right here.